You even sent your original body here. Well, seems that the Cloud Sea Asgard really thinks highly of me. Jian Wushuang blurted out these words with a note of distinct taunt. Hearing this, the experts from the various sects all turned sullen, murmuring under their breath. And as for the members of the Cloud Sea Asgard, including Tian Yunzi, they all looked rather glum. The Cloud Sea Asgard was one of the 3 magnates in the firmament territory and had claimed to be the top sect. But today, in order to deal with just one divine realm expert, they sent out almost all their experts and resorted to all their means and skills. From the moment Yun Fan stepped forward to fight against Jian Wushuang, they were already bullying the outnumbered. However, they failed. Then, in desperation, Yun Fan joined hands with Saber Master of the Immortal Dynasty and Old Weirdo Dream of the Boundless Demon Sect. The 3 guys, each of whom had lived for numerous years in this world, cooperated to take down Jian Wushuang. Nevertheless, they were still crashed by Jian Wushuang's frontal attack. Furthermore, the 3 even asked all the experts of the 3 magnates on the scene to attack Jian Wushuang at the same time. This was already too outrageous. But even when all the experts united together and launched strikes against Jian Wushuang, they were still completely routed. Furthermore, Yun Fan was almost killed by Jian Wushuang. At this point, Tian Yunzi, the palace master of the Cloud Sea Asgard, appeared again. In the beginning, Tian Yunzi only dispatched his doppelganger to fight, but it was nearly killed when Jian Wushuang employed one of his trump cards. Seeing how critical the situation was, Tian Yunzi's original body came on stage. And all this actually happened in the presence of all those experts from assorted sects of the firmament territory. To defeat Jian Wushuang, a mere divine realm expert, the Cloud Sea Asgard had depleted all its means. Yet, they still could not vanquish him. Eventually, they had to invite the original body of their palace master, the strongest Tian Yunzi, to fight him. If this incident got about, the Cloud Sea Asgard would certainly become a standing joke in the firmament territory. Yes, a hilarious joke. The experts of the Cloud Sea Asgard were all aware of this, and this was why their looks turned so nasty. Jian Wushuang, Tian Yunzi bellowed coldly, his face glum. I don't have time to bicker with you. Just be a lamb and follow me to my Cloud Sea Asgard. If so, I can guarantee your safety. If not. Before Tian Yunzi finished this sentence, a dreamy voice suddenly sounded. If not? If not, so what? These words fluttered in from the void, mingled with a sneer. All the experts on the scene instantly turned to look at the source of the voice. They saw that a straight and tall, purple-haired man with a friendly face was strolling towards them. He was walking very slowly. Each of the steps he made caused a ripple in the void, which gradually spread to the surroundings. When he walked onto the battlefield, the whole place was wrapped in vast ripples, and he was standing in the center of all these ripples. Once this man arrived, the focal point of the whole scene immediately shifted from Tian Yunzi to him. Xianxia. Seeing the newcomer, Tian Yunzi's pupils bulged. Teacher. Flames of joy danced in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Palace Master Xianxia. The 9 palace masters of the ancient sect were all heartened. As for the rest of the experts on the scene, they were thrilled, too. It's Xianxia. Xianxia's here. He should be here much earlier than this. I wonder what took him so long this time. Now, this is interesting. Palace Master Xianxia was always eager to defend for his disciples. 100 years ago, when he learned that Jian Wushuang failed to get out of the Eternal Zone with a rush of wrath, he killed 7 top Eternal Realm experts of the Cloud Sea Asgard at one go. The Cloud Sea Asgard even did not have the guts to complain. Now, since the Cloud Sea Asgard has turned into a bully and attacked Jian Wushuang several times with despicable means, Palace Master Xianxia must be raging. We have a show now. But the opponent that Xianxia is facing today is Tian Yunzi, the Palace Master of the Cloud Sea Asgard, who is at the level of Tao Master. I'm afraid Xianxia can't be as domineering as he used to be. Everyone was waiting with bated breath. Xianxia was said to be the most mysterious man in the firmament territory, and also the one that could not be messed around with the most. As for Tian Yunzi, he was a supreme expert at the level of Tao Master, who also had the whole Cloud Sea Asgard backing him up. The interaction between these two would be quite interesting. Xianxia, you're finally willing to appear in public, aren't you? Tian Yunzi stared at Xianxia. His expression did not change much. He said, "Apparently you have been here for a while, but you hid in the dark until now. Aren't you worried that your sweet disciple might die in the hands of our Cloud Sea Asgard? Oh ho, if my disciple dies, I will send all the Eternal Realm experts of your Cloud Sea Asgard down to hell to accompany him," Xianxia said composedly. There was a murmur of terror around the crowd. In the entire firmament territory, Palace Master Xianxia was probably the only one who dared to proclaim sending the Eternal Realm disciples of the Cloud Sea Asgard to accompany his disciple in the Netherworld. "Xianxia, aren't you looking down on us too much?" Tian Yunzi asked in a deep voice. "Indeed I am. But what can you do about that?" Xianxia laughed. "You!" Tian Yunzi yelled, and a flow of rage stole over him. He used to have some dealings with Xianxia, and he knew basically what kind of person Xianxia was. Xianxia was truly qualified to be on an equal footing with him. But to his surprise, Xianxia had behaved so arrogantly in front of him. "Teacher." At this point in time, Zhen Wushuang already came to stand by Xianxia. Xianxia nodded slightly at Zhen Wushuang. "Don't speak now. Relax. Just stand behind me, and I'll handle the rest." "Yes." Zhen Wushuang nodded. He never doubted his master. "Tian Yunzi, you owe me an explanation for today's matter." Xianxia opened his mouth. His nonchalant reverberated in the area. "Explanation?" Tian Yunzi glanced at Xianxia and snorted. 100 years ago, when you killed 7 of our Eternal Realm experts because your disciple did not walk out of the Eternal Zone, I didn't come to you for an explanation. 100 years ago? Well, at that time, men from your Cloud Sea Asgard did attack my disciple. And I only killed 7 of your Eternal Realm experts. Wasn't that what you deserved? Xianxia said. 100 years ago, you already knew that your disciple didn't die? Tian Yunzi said, staring at Xianxia. Yes. Xianxia replied honestly and did not try to deny this fact at all. If my disciple really died, do you think your Cloud Sea Asgard would merely suffer such a small loss? Could the Immortal Dynasty and the Boundless Demon Sect possibly stifle my anger with a compensation of a few divine gems? You jerk! Flames of anger were raging in Tian Yunzi's eyes. The real jerk is your Cloud Sea Asgard. My disciple is merely a divine realm expert, but to deal with him, your Cloud Sea Asgard sent out loads of experts. And in the end, even you, the Palace Master of the Cloud Sea Asgard, came to the battlefield in person. You, Tian Yunzi, a Tao Master, is about to have a go at a divine realm expert. And you're still standing here shamelessly saying those far-fetched things. If this ever leaks into the public, aren't you afraid of being scoffed at? Xianxia said, his eyes becoming icy cold. Xianxi's words embarrassed Tian Yunzi. Despite his indignation, he forced himself to calm down and not lose his temper. Good, very good. Tian Yunzi stared at Xianxia and said, Xianxia, I know what you're capable of. With your protection, I surely cannot do anything to your precious disciple. Since that's the case, I'll bring the other 2. I'll see how you can still protect your disciple under your wing. The other 2? Xianxi's expression changed. Those experts of all the sects burst into an uproar. It was because they knew exactly who the other 2 were. Then, Tian Yunzi took out a messaging slip and sent a message. Soon he received a response. Xianxia, let me see who else can protect your disciple today. Tian Yunzi said with a chilling voice. Oh! Xianxia raised his eyebrow but did not reply. Shortly after Tian Yunzi sent the message, 2 figures landed in this place one after another. One of them was a sturdy middle-aged man, who was wearing battling armor and boots. His eyes were shooting bolts of black lightning. Pay my tribute to Divine Emperor. Seeing the man, the remaining experts of the Immortal Dynasty, who were not killed by Zhen Wushuang, all straightened up and gave a salute, their eyes revealing a fever of enthusiasm. This middle-aged man was the Supreme Divine Emperor of the Immortal Dynasty. No one knew what his real name was. They only knew he was surnamed Tuesday. Thus, all the experts in the Firmament territory always addressed him as Emperor Tuesday. Soon after Emperor Tu's arrival, a beautiful and slender girl entered the area. This girl seemed to be only 15 or 16 years old, and she looked very delicate. When she appeared in this area, everything in her vicinity was outshined by her. When those experts first saw this gorgeous girl, they were intoxicated with her beauty. At this point, even if the girl ordered them to die, some of them would certainly follow her order without hesitation. Pay my tribute to Demon Master. Experts of the Boundless Demon sect all saluted this pretty girl. This pretty girl was the sect master of the Boundless Demon sect, who was also called Demon Master. Her name was Su Bin, so people usually called her Demon Master Su. Emperor Tu, Demon Master Su, and the Cloud Sea Asgard's Tian Yunzi were all sect masters of the three most powerful magnates in the firmament territory. The three had reached the level of Tao Master a long time ago and became supreme experts. Today, the three Tao Masters had gathered. As Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su landed in the void, the whole area fell silent. Before they arrived, some experts from top sects were still chatting from time to time. But now, they had all shut up and did not dare to say anything more in case they accidentally upset one of the three big shots. Each of these three was quite legendary in the firmament territory. Well, this is a scene of bustle, isn't it? When Emperor Tu arrived, his eyes swept across the scene. The ordinary experts never caught his eyes. Only when he looked at Xianxia did his eyes freeze for a moment. Tian Yunzi, I'm just in the middle of a closed-door training. I got here the moment I received your message. Tell me, what's going on? Demon Master Su asked. As for the whole thing, you can ask your subordinates. They will tell you why I invited you here, Tian Yunzi said. Facing Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su, who were level with himself, Tian Yunzi did not dare to put himself so highly. Bewildered, Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su immediately consulted their own experts. Saber Master of the Immortal Dynasty and Old Weirdo Dream of the Boundless Demon sect hurried forward to recount what had happened. After learning the development of the recent events, Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su both looked fascinated. They also fixed their eyes on Jian Wushuang. Bravo! This guy managed to spend 100 years in the Eternal Zone without being killed. And he even boosted his strength considerably. Emperor Tu looked zealous. A divine realm expert can turn into a gold-armored demon god? And his battle strength is stronger than Yunfan and the other two experts at Step 4 of the Eternal Realm? Even Tian Yunzi's doppelganger was nearly killed by him. This is unbelievable. We've never had such a divine realm expert whose powerful is in defiance of the natural order in the firmament territory. Have we? Demon Master Su was also amazed. After the initial shock, they both arrived at a conclusion. Jian Wushuang must have carried a huge secret. A secret that involves the most important demon god clan of the Eternal Zone. It was exactly this secret that endowed Jian Wushuang with a kind of power in defiance of the natural order. This secret was something that intrigued the two and even made them crave for it. Xianxia, this Jian Wushuang is a disciple of yours? Emperor Tu looked at Xianxia and asked. Yes. Xianxia nodded slightly. Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su stared at each other. Both of their faces darkened. They knew very well that Xianxia was not someone they could provoke. But the secret that Jian Wushuang was hiding was not a trivial matter at all. If the two were tied together, almost at the same time, a trace of decisiveness flitted across their eyes. Xianxia, your disciple is carrying a big secret about the whole Eternal Zone. How can you allow him to keep such a secret to himself? You might as well just let him tell us the secret, Emperor Tu said. Yes, as long as he honestly tells us the whole story about what he had been through in the Eternal Zone over the past 100 years, we will not give him a hard time anymore. Demon Master Su added. Haha. Xianxia, you heard that. A moment ago, when I was all by myself, I truly could not force you into anything. But now, with the presence of Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su, if you still refuse to hand your disciple over, are you really going to make a hopeless attempt to take on the three of us? Teacher. Jian Wushuang could not help but cast a tense look at Xianxia. But deep down, Jian Wushuang felt like giving a wry smile. Now, everyone on the scene, including Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su, All thought he had obtained some precious opportunity in the Eternal Zone that helped him to gain such an amazing battle strength. They also believed that Jian Wushuang knew many secrets about the Demon God clan. But in reality, it was true that Jian Wushuang met a lot of opportunities in the Eternal Zone. He learned how to transform into an ancient god, mastered myriads of secret skills, brought his strength to a higher level, but the true reason for his incredulous strength as a divine realm expert was still the heavenly creation skill that he had been practicing. Those opportunities were just something extra. Although he did know some secrets of the ancient god, they were not a lot. Just when everyone was gazing at Xian Yi's eyes shifted. Then he gave a smile and said, "I am actually not very sure of what this guy came across in the Eternal Zone. Please let me question him first, and I'll address you all later. What do you think?" Hearing Xian Yi's words, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su exchanged looks and then nodded. "All right then," Tian Yunzi said. "You're Jian Wushuang's master. It's reasonable that you should be the first one to hear his stories in the Eternal Zone. But I hope in the end you can make the right choice. Otherwise," Xian Yi smiled and flicked his sleeves. Jian Wushuang followed him to a piece of nearby empty void, and the two started to talk. Meanwhile, the rest of the experts, including Tian Yunzi and the other two Dao masters, waited patiently on the scene. "Master!" Jian Wushuang looked at Xian Yi. He thought Xian Yi would immediately ask him about his life in the Eternal Zone, so he had already started to think about what to say. But Xian Yi just beamed at him and said, "Kid, over the past 100 years you spent in the Eternal Zone, you really made some progress." Jian Wushuang was taken aback by this, but he then nodded and said humbly, "Just a little progress. You've already impressed me by turning into a gold-armored ancient god. If I'm not mistaken, your sword heart has also reached level 2, right? And it has stayed at level 2 for a long time." Xian Yi smiled. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded again. But he did not notice that Xian Yi had just said gold-armored ancient god, instead of gold-armored demon god. It should be noted that all the experts in the Firmament territory called the ancient god clansmen demon gods. They did not know that the demon god clan's true name was the ancient god clan. But Xian Yi had said, gold-armored ancient god. Apparently, Xian Yi knew the real name of the demon god clan. "Your swordsmanship has also improved quite a lot. Have you ever come across any problems with the sword principle over the past 100 years?" Xian Yi asked again. Jian Wushuang became even more bemused. He could not help but ask, "Master, don't you want to know what happened to me during the past 100 years? What happened to you is your own business. Why would I want to know?" Xian Yi grinned. "I said this to Tian Yunzi and his lot because I want to play for some time." "Play for some time?" Jian Wushuang was nonplussed. Xian Yi clearly had no interest in hearing his stories in the Eternal Zone. This was just an excuse to play for some time. "But why do you want to play for time? What use will it serve?" Jian Wushuang blurted out. "Be patient. You'll know when the time comes." Xian Yi gave a mysterious smile and went on. "You and I finally had a reunion after 100 years. If you have any problem relevant to the sword principle, quickly ask. Don't miss this opportunity." "Oh yes." Jian Wushuang nodded hastily. Although Jian Wushuang did not know what kind of plan Xian Yi had, he did not ask more questions out of his trust for his master. Instead, he immediately told Xian Yi those little problems that had confused him in the sword principle study, and Xian Yi also unreservedly gave his answers and explanations. Meanwhile, the experts of various sects, including the 3 renowned Dao masters Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su, were all patiently waiting for Xian Yi's reply. But none of them realized that Xian Yi was not questioning Jian Wushuang about his life in the Eternal Zone at all. He was teaching him the sword principle. Half of a day fleeted by. Tian Yunzi finally ran out of patience. "Xian Yi, you've questioned him for so long. Did you get all the details? Have you come to an answer?" Tian Yunzi bellowed. Xian Yi, who was in the middle of teaching Jian Wushuang, looked back at Tian Yunzi and gave him a playful smile. "It's about time. I think we're done." Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su instantly turned to look at Xian Yi. "Xian Yi, Let your disciple tell us his stories, Emperor Tu said candidly. My disciple? No, no. Xianyi shook his head. His voice grew colder. Whatever my disciple went through in the Eternal Zone, that's his business. His master, will never ask about it. Likewise, whatever opportunities or secrets he attained in the Eternal Zone, that's his business, and any other man had better stay out of it. Xianyi stressed the last few words, making him sound more awe-inspiring. Xianyi, you fooled us, didn't you? Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su all looked gloomy. They had given Xianyi enough respect, but Xianyi clearly failed to appreciate their kindness. I did fool you, so what? Do you guys really want to learn the hard way? Well, Xianyi smiled weakly. His penetrating eyes shifted towards Tian Yunzi and the other two. His freezing voice rang throughout the area. Today I, Xianyi, proclaim for everyone to hear. You three can use whatever means or skills you have to fight, but I can tell you the result beforehand. In the end, I and my disciple will go through this battle safe and sound, while you three will pay a great price for getting out of this fight alive. These words are spoken by me, Xianyi. The experts of assorted sects all looked bemused. They did not know why Xianyi was so confident. Very well. I really want to see how you're going to make the three of us pay such a great price. Tian Yunzi said, his eyes extremely cold. I want to see as well, Emperor Tu said nonchalantly. A heavy sword had already appeared in his hands. Xianyi, you're so thick-headed. Don't blame us for going hard on you. Demon Master Su's eyes shone with excitement. In the next second, a bang blasted out. 3 streams of formidable aura burst out in an instant. The 3 Dao Masters representing the top authority in the firmament territory launched attacks at the same time. Xianyi. Tian Yunzi charged furiously at the front. There was a glint of fierceness in his expression, his eyes staring at Xianyi unblinkingly. As he leaped forward, the void behind him cracked open bit by bit. The 3 Dao Masters struck out simultaneously, astonishing every expert of all the sects. Master! Jian Wushuang was also shocked by what he saw. Xianyi was the only one still wearing a vague smile. Even when he saw the 3 Dao Masters attacking together, he made no move at all to fend them off. However, at this moment, something shocking happened. Humph! A snort resounded like a clap of thunder, suddenly descending from a cloudless sky and spreading outwards. Dare to attack my master? How audacious you are! As the voice faded, a blast of astounding power broke out. Not far in the void, a scarlet giant axe at least 1,000 feet high suddenly appeared, covering half the sky. It split open all the barriers ahead of it with an overwhelming power. A second ago it was still in the far end of the void, but in the blink of an eye, it had already approached Tian Yunzi and was hacking at him. What? The drastic change startled Tian Yunzi. But he was a Dao master after all, so he quickly came to his senses and reacted quickly. He gathered all his power in his right hand, on which he was wearing a boxing glove. A fit of bright red energy shot straight out. Boom! A huge hole was blasted into the void. Tian Yunzi let out a muffled snort and zoomed backward like a detonated bomb. Then, with a swoosh, a robust figure materialized in front of Xianyi. He was more than 2 meters high, as sturdy as a brown bear. He was goggling at Tian Yunzi and the other two with 2 dreadful eyes as large as plates, grinding his teeth in fury. When the brown bear man appeared, a raw wind suddenly blew in from the nearby void. Everyone narrowed their eyes and turned to look at the source of this vile wind. From that direction, a colossal purple figure emerged. A monstrous creature covered in purple scales was scurrying towards them at an incredible speed. When this huge creature came closer, everyone saw it clearly. It was a giant dragon covered in purple scales. Yes, it was a giant dragon, a real giant dragon. This dragon's body was about 10,000 feet in length. The pressure it exerted was overbearing. On the head of this amethyst giant dragon stood a purple armored man holding an amethyst long spear like a war god. His pupils were also purple, and he shot bolts of purple lightning at Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su. Boom! The earth suddenly trembled as though it was going to crack. In the next second, a corner of the sky suddenly turned scarlet. This scarlet corner expanded and finally turned into a boundless blood sea which engulfed the whole area. On the edge of the boundless blood sea, a wicked young man was strolling. He had long blood-red hair, wore a bloody robe and carried a blood-red saber. He looked like an Azura who had just returned from hell. He did not make any strike or send forth any aura. But once he appeared, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, Demon Master Su all felt their blood run cold. Finally, this bloody demonic youth walked up to Xianxia. Then, as everyone on the scene was still dumbstruck, the man as robust as a brown bear, the amethyst war god riding an amethyst giant dragon, and the demonic youth in full blood-red clothing, the last to come, suddenly got down to their knees before Xianxia and spoke in one voice with great respect. "We disciples hereby pay our tribute to Master Xianxia." These thunderous words reverberated throughout the area. As they spoke, 3 whiffs of extremely terrifying aura instantly swept across. Any one of these 3 whiffs of aura was much more powerful than that of Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su. The 3 men were obviously Dao Master-level supreme experts. The 3 personal disciples, the 3 peerless geniuses, the 3 most powerful Dao Masters that Xianxia recruited before he took in Jian Wushuang, had returned. Silence. The whole world seemed to have become soundless. All the experts were watching the 3 unexpected arrivals with bated breath and felt the fierce aura they emitted. Compared to these 3 men, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, Demon Master Su looked quite inferior. Dao Masters? Another 3 Dao Masters? For heaven's sake, what is going on today? How come so many Dao Masters have suddenly appeared? The surrounding experts inside squirmed violently with anxiety. Dao Masters, supreme experts of the eternal world, were utterly legendary figures in the firmament territory. Usually, it would be extremely hard to meet a single supreme expert. But now, there were no less than 6 Dao Masters standing here. 6 Dao Masters. And they also heard how the last 3 Dao Masters addressed Xianxia. Master. They called Xianxia Master. Thus, their identities were evident. The 3 men are all disciples of Xianxia? Didn't they say that Palace Master Xianxia didn't recruit any disciples before he met Jian Wushuang? No, he had 3 disciples before that. But the 3 disciples left the firmament territory a long time ago to make a name for themselves in other realms. All his 3 disciples are Dao Masters? They were stunned. Everyone on the battlefield was stunned by this discovery. They knew Xianxia was powerful, mysterious, and intimidating. But it never occurred to them that Xianxia's disciples could become so freakishly powerful. Yes, freakishly powerful. Weren't Dao Masters hard to come by? But Xianxia had 3 personal disciples before Jian Wushuang, and these 3 personal disciples had all become Dao Masters. He must be a monster. It was simply unbelievable. Even if he had an exceptionally strong Dao Master teach them himself, he could not guarantee that his disciples would grow into Dao Masters, could he? Xianxia. The experts of the 3 magnates all looked very sullen. Yun Fan's face was rather pale. Those experts of the 3 magnates knew a little about what Xianxia could achieve. They had long since learned that Xianxia had raised several formidable disciples. Throughout the history of the ancient sect as well as the sect master, there had been 3 Dao Masters. This allowed the ancient sect to be the most prestigious of all the sects of the firmament territory. After all, even the 3 magnates had not produced any Dao Masters other than the Palace Masters. Only the ancient sect had done so, and they had a total of 3 Dao Masters. But the 3 magnates knew very clearly that the 3 Dao Masters who had come from the ancient sect shared one thing in common. They were all personal disciples of Xianxia. Precisely because of this, they were shocked when they heard that Xianxia was going to take in Jian Wushuang as his 4th personal disciple. This was why they planned to kill Jian Wushuang in advance, and they attempted to do so in the Eternal Zone. The 3 magnates were scared. They feared that Xianxia might raise another monster, another Dao Master. That would be a huge blow to them. However, things went contrary to their wishes. Jian Wushuang did not die under their attack. Instead, He attained great opportunities in the Eternal Zone and elevated his strength to an unimaginably high level within a mere 100 years. Compared with the power that his 3 senior brothers showed at the beginning, what Jian Wushuang had demonstrated was much more extraordinary. Damn Xianyi, he is well prepared for this. He must have long since summoned his 3 personal disciples back. Tian Yunzi cursed. He was glum-faced, his eyes fixed on the 3 Dao masters who had just arrived. This is getting tricky. His 3 personal disciples have returned. It's impossible for us to attack him now, Emperor Tu said. We probably can't even escape unscathed, let alone attack him. Demon Master Su's face grew slightly ugly. She noticed that each of the 3 newly arrived Dao masters was issuing a rich aura, especially the evil scarlet-haired youth who was the last to come. This evil scarlet-haired youth gave her a deathly still feeling like the blood sea, and she could not help but be awestruck. In the void, Xianyi looked around at the 3 men and nodded, gesturing them to stand up. Jian Wushuang, come here. Xianyi beckoned Jian Wushuang over. Master! Jian Wushuang immediately came over. As I told you before, you have 3 senior brothers. And here they are. Let me introduce them one by one. Xianyi started to introduce his disciples. This is your 3rd senior brother, Baihu, who is also quite famous in the eternal world. People call him Dao Master Baihu. Xianyi pointed a finger at the brown bear-like burly man with a pair of huge eyes. The burly man gave a good-natured smile at Jian Wushuang and asked, You're the new junior brother our master has recruited? I, your junior brother, hereby pay my respects to my 3rd senior brother. Jian Wushuang answered immediately, memorizing the name of his 3rd senior brother. And this is your 2nd senior brother, Purple Mountain. But others usually call him Purple Dragon Dao Master. That giant dragon is his ride, Xianyi said, pointing at the purple-armored man standing on the head of the giant dragon like an unrivaled war god. 2nd senior brother. Jian Wushuang greeted him at once. Yeah. 2nd senior brother Purple Mountain nodded slightly at Jian Wushuang, his eyes exuding a trace of warmness. And this one is your 1st senior brother. His name is Shui Lingtian. Few people know this name. But if you mention the title Master Bloodsaber, all the top experts in the eternal world shall know who you're referring to, Xianyi said with a smile. Jian Wushuang instantly looked at the demonic youth with blood-red hair, who was also in a blood-red robe. The demonic youth also looked straight at Jian Wushuang. When Jian Wushuang looked into this man's eyes, he felt that he was simply staring at a boundless blood sea, and nothing more. Jian Wushuang was a bit shocked. He hastily gave a salute. Pay my respects to 1st senior brother. Junior brother. No need to be so polite to us. The evil scarlet-haired youth nodded at Jian Wushuang. After introducing everyone, Xianyi opened his mouth and said, I called you back with such short notice this time because your junior brother got into some troubles and needs your help. You 3 will help him deal with the 3 Dao Masters from the 3 Magnates. The 3 Magnates? The evil scarlet-haired youth, that was to say Jian Wushuang's 1st senior brother Shui Lingtian, cast a glimpse at Tian Yunzi and the other 2, and a note of ruthlessness flitted across his eyes. Then he asked, Junior brother, what do you reckon we should do with this 3? Do with? Jian Wushuang was taken aback. They were talking about the 3 Dao Masters. How could he decide what to do with them? Just teach them a lesson, but don't kill them, Xianyi said. Got it. Shui Lingtian nodded. At Xianyi's words, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su instantly became indignant, flames of fury dancing in their eyes. They were 3 Dao Masters, but judging by Xianyi's words, they were already like 3 fish lying on a board for them to chop. It was natural that they were indignant. Humph, you trained 3 disciples into Dao Masters, that's really something. But that's not enough for you to completely overpower the 3 of us. Tian Yunzi snarled. We are Dao Masters too, and there are 3 of us as well. We don't fear you at all. Emperor Tu also snapped. Xianyi, I'm eager to see how powerful your 3 Dao Master disciples can be. Demon Master Su said, her face cold and detached. The 3 were all Dao Masters through and through. and they had long since made a name for themselves. They had the utmost confidence in their strength. Although Xianyi's 3 personal disciples were Tao masters, this was not enough to make them scared. "You're mistaken," an icy cold voice suddenly sounded. It was the evil scarlet-haired youth who opened his mouth. Xue Lingtian's eyes were utterly scarlet now. "I can handle you guys myself. No need to let my 2 junior brothers bother with this." "What? How arrogant! You're courting death." Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su all flew into a rage, for Xue Lingtian's words severely humiliated the 3 of them. But just at this point, Xue Lingtian began to act. Whoosh! Xue Lingtian took a step forward and instantly dashed up to the 3 Tao masters who were standing side by side. His speed was so fast that it even surpassed the speed of thunderbolts and anything in the world. Then, he appeared next to Tian Yunzi, who was standing on the far left, and casually pulled out his blood-red saber. Whoosh! He hacked at Tian Yunzi. This move looked quite normal, and even the Eternal Realm experts and Divine Realm disciples watching them from far away had seen the whole thing clearly. But this seemingly slow move swept seamlessly across Tian Yunzi's neck, cutting across this Tao master's vulnerable flesh, as if it were a chunk of tofu. The blade light flashed, but it did not even leave a cut on Tian Yunzi's neck. Although it seemed to be a very slow move, in fact, it happened so fast that no one had time to react. You. Tian Yunzi's eyes widened, but Xue Lingtian, who had just thrust his saber in a flash, strode forward again and appeared beside Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su. He made the same slow move. His saber skimmed over the necks of Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su, sending 3 heads flying off in succession. The 3 top Tao masters and super experts, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su, were not able to react at all. Swish! The blood-red figure flashed by, and Xue Lingtian was, once again, standing next to Xianyi. Buzz! The 3 heads that were tossed into the void suddenly came to a halt. Then, a huge amount of energy started converging, and the rest of the 3 bodies also hurtled over to reconnect to their own heads. In just a few minutes, the 3 who had been beheaded already fully recovered. Eternal Realm experts would not die as long as their life cores were still intact. Now that they were Tao masters, it would be more difficult for them to die. Even though their heads were chopped off, as long as their life cores were not destroyed, they could repair their bodies at any time or even recreate their entire bodies, which could be achieved in a short spell. Now, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su had all repaired their bodies, and their strength also returned to the peak. However, the 3 were shivering, goggling at Xue Lingtian with utterly terrified looks. They all knew that they had just paid a visit to the gate of hell. If Xue Lingtian had not been merciful enough to let go of their life cores, they would have become 3 dead bodies by now. And the numerous onlookers watching this fight had become completely terror-stricken. 3 moves. During the whole time, Xue Lingtian had only made 3 moves. But these 3 moves cut the heads of Tian Yunzi and the other 2 straight off and left no chance for the 3 Tao masters to fight back. What kind of strength this is? They are all Tao masters. But how could the gap between their strength levels be so striking? Even Jian Wushuang was still staring at this scene in complete disbelief. The only ones that were not amazed by this were Xianyi, Baihu, and Purple Mountain. Boy, you are getting stronger and stronger, aren't you? Xianyi looked at Xue Lingtian and gave him a smile. Haha, Tian Yunzi and the other 2 have always stayed in the small firmament territory and played the role of bullies. They have no idea just how vast the eternal world really is. They don't travel, don't go on adventures, and don't bother to take me seriously, let alone first senior brother. Baihu said, scoffing. Those 3 are really too ignorant. Otherwise, they would not have been so audacious in front of first senior brother. Purple Mountain said, unconcerned. They might be Tao masters, but how can they be mentioned in the same breath as the famous Master Bloodsaber? Forget those 3. Even you and I cannot withstand more than a couple of strikes from our first senior brother. Baihu grunted with a sigh. Of course we can't. After all, our first senior brother is the Tao master who strode forth. He is much more powerful than us. Purple Mountain nodded. Being watched by everyone on the scene, Tian was still very poised. He just stood there and remained silent. At this point, Xianyi turned to look at Tian Yunzi and the other two. Beaming brightly, he said, "You three, now can we sit down and talk this over?" Tian Yunzi and the other two exchanged a look. They were all sour-faced now. Palace Master Xianyi, our boundless demon sect will take the full blame for today's incident. No matter what you ask for, our boundless demon sect will try to meet your requirements as much as possible. I only wish you could show mercy, Palace Master Xianyi, and spare our lives today, Demon Master Su said honestly. Really? Xianyi raised his eyebrows. Hearing these words, the experts of all the sects suddenly burst into an uproar. She is pleading for mercy. The demon master of the boundless demon sect, a Tao master, is pleading for mercy in person. Well, so what if she is a Tao master? She is still a human being. Facing someone far more powerful than her, what else can she do other than plead for mercy? Look for more trouble. I never saw that coming. Never. I actually thought this time Xianyi would really suffer. But who thought it could turn out like this? Scattered murmurs sounded from the surroundings. Demon Master Su blushed with embarrassment, feeling too ashamed to show her face. However, she had no other alternative. In order to save her life, to save her boundless demon sect, she had to do so. On both sides of her, Tian Yunzi and Emperor Tu were both trembling. They exchanged significant looks and soon made up their minds. Then they spoke one after the other. Palace Master Xianyi, this is all the fault of my Cloud Sea Asgard. No matter what you want, Cloud Sea Asgard will try its best to satisfy you. So will my Immortal dynasty. Within a few seconds, Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su, the rulers of the three magnates, bowed their heads towards Xianyi. Of course, the one they were really bowing to was Tian. What happened a moment ago was incredibly dreadful. The three would never ever forget his saber that struck swiftly before they could react. Tian's formidable strength had completely astonished them. Seeing Tian Yunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su all admitting defeat, Bai who could not help but burst out laughing. They do know where the wind blows. Xianyi looked over at them with a smile and said, "Now that you three have all admitted that today's matter is all your fault, I'll tell you a thing or two. 100 years ago, you three magnates all attacked my disciple in an attempt to kill him. Thanks to his good luck, he survived the assassination launched by your experts. However, he was still forced to stay in a place as dangerous as the Eternal Zone for 100 years. But today, when he came out of the Eternal Zone, he once again was persecuted by you. You're the three top magnates, but you sent so many experts to bully my disciple together. I, his master, can never stand by and let you bully him," Xianyi said leisurely. But before he finished, the grim-faced Tian Yunzi chimed in. "Xianyi, no need to beat around the bush. Just tell us what compensation you want." Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su also turned to look at Xianyi. They knew very well that what Xianyi just said was all bullshit. The real thing that determined success or failure was one's strength. Xianyi and his lot were truly stronger than them. Thus, they could only admit defeat. Without such strength, no matter what Xianyi said, it would still be useless. Since Xianyi did not intend to kill them or get back at them, there was only one possibility about his true agenda, which was naturally to try to rake in more benefits from the three magnates. As Xianyi said before, if the three of them did not pay a huge price, they would not leave this place alive. And they, as well as all the experts on the scene, were fully aware of what that high price was. Well, you guys are quite candid. In this case, I shall just spit it out. Xianyi smiled. He looked gentle and mild as usual, but his eyes turned slightly crafty. I have 3 requirements. If you agree to satisfy my requirements, I will immediately take off with my disciples. 3 requirements? Tian Yunzi squinted a little. Say it. What are the 3 requirements? Emperor Tu and Demon Master Su also gritted their teeth and prepared themselves to make a huge sacrifice. The first one, and the simplest, is that you 3 magnates shall work together and collect some divine gems for me, Xianyi said with a smile. Divine gems? Tianyunzi and the other two looked surprised. The divine gem was the commonest currency in the eternal world. Each of the three magnates had accumulated huge stocks of divine gems. 100 years ago, when Xianxia was enraged, he asked the Immortal dynasty and boundless demon sect to compensate him with 10 million divine gems. The two handed those divine gems over without blinking. Based on this, you could imagine how affluent the three magnates were. The three thought Xianxia would propose something outrageous. However, to their surprise, the first requirement he made was just to ask for some divine gems. "How many divine gems do you want?" Tianyunzi asked, scowling. Not many, just 1 billion. Xianxia gave a faint smile. What? The eyes of experts around them instantly widened. And the experts of the three magnates all looked infuriated. Tianyunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su also trembled with shock. How was 1 billion divine gems not many? It should be noted that a normal Eternal Realm expert would usually only have about 1 million divine gems. Therefore, the value of 1 billion divine gems was 1,000 times the fortune a normal Eternal Realm expert could possess. What a large number it was. Although the three magnates were wealthy enough that they could take out 10 million divine gems without blinking, it was painful for them to pay out 100 million divine gems in a lump sum. But 1 billion divine gems? None of the three magnates had any way of handing in so many divine gems without depleting their treasury. 1 billion divine gems. Xianxia, how dare you to ask for so many? Tianyunzi bellowed, and his face darkened to the fullest. I'm just asking for some divine gems. Do you really have to react this way? Well, I'm not requiring each of you to hand in 1 billion divine gems. I just want your three magnates to give me that amount altogether. On average, each of you shall merely pay around 300 million divine gems. It's not a big deal for you guys. Xianxia smiled casually. All three of them looked livid. How could 300 million divine gems not be a big deal? Xianxia was really unabashed in his request. Actually, although the ancient sect was the top sect of the 9 best in the firmament territory, if we sold the whole ancient sect out except for its sect master, Xianxia, and his 3 Tao master disciples, the gains would not be as much as 300 million divine gems. Humph! At the sight of the reluctant expressions of the three, Xianxia abruptly let out a snort and said with a deep voice, "What's the matter? Do you think I'm extorting you? How ridiculous. Think, didn't I have to pay some price to summon my 3 disciples here with such short notice? Pay some price." Tianyunzi and the other 2 were nonplussed. The experts on all sides also cast their eyes on Xianxia. Xianxia explained coldly, "You know that my 3 disciples have long since left the firmament territory and gone to places far away. If they traveled on foot, even though they are Tao masters, it will take them decades or even 100 years to cross such long distances. They may never be able to return again, not to mention that they could be delayed, which will take them even longer to arrive here. Then, how did the 3 arrive here so fast? The answer is simple. All the 3 of them just came back through the wormholes under the exclusive control of the Void Temple. Think about what a facility the Void Temple is, how grand their wormholes are. Maybe you 3 already know what high price a man has to pay for using a wormhole in the Void Temple once. Void Temple? Tianyunzi, Emperor Tu, and Demon Master Su all narrowed their eyes. Although they had spent most of their life ruling the firmament territory, they still learned a lot about the legendary Void Temple. They were also perfectly clear about how expensive it could be to use a wormhole of the Void Temple once. Even a Tao master would feel distressed about paying such a price. The 3 disciples of mine all used the wormholes of the Void Temple to get here in the shortest time. Each time they used the wormholes, it cost them 100 million divine gems per person. It cost them 300 million to simply come here. If you include their returning fees, it will add up to 600 million, Xianxia said in a low voice. Besides, the 3 were actually all in the middle of doing something, but they had to put off their own businesses to support their junior brother. Shouldn't you pay for these losses? Adding up the fee for using the wormholes, the cost of their time and their delayed businesses, I'm already doing you a favor by only asking for 1 billion divine gems. How can you be so ungrateful? While speaking, an indignant expression appeared on Xianxia's face. as Xianyi led his 4 favorite disciples off swaggering under the watch of all the experts. Today's incident was finally settled. The experts and disciples all gloated at the 3 magnates. Today, it could be said that the 3 magnates went for wool and came home shorn. They originally wanted to take on Jian Wushuang and force him to tell them the secrets about the Eternal Zone. However, they did not achieve this. What was more, they suffered a great loss. They not only lost many Eternal Realm experts in the fight against Jian Wushuang, but also had to pay a huge price to appease Xianyi's wrath. They had to pay 100 million divine gems, 5 kilograms of orichalcum, and loads of precious secret skills. This compensation really cost the 3 magnates an arm and a leg. Today's battle actually turned the 3 magnates into Jian Wushuang and Xianyi's stepping stones. After this battle, the entire firmament territory would soon know the ancient sect had raised a peerless genius, an unprecedented divine realm expert who could outshine all the experts of the 3 magnates, and his name was Jian Wushuang. Meanwhile, with the reappearance of his 3 Dao master disciples, the fame and influence of the most mysterious Xianyi in the firmament territory would certainly be taken a notch up. But of course, fame and influence were never the things that Jian Wushuang and Xianyi pursued. They did not care what the experts of various sects in the firmament territory were saying. On the top of the Enlightenment Mountain in the ancient sect, Jian Wushuang and his 3 senior brothers were sitting by a table loaded with wine and assorted dishes. Senior brothers, if you hadn't come in time today, I'm afraid I would not be sitting here alive. Now, I'd like to propose a toast to the 3 of you, Jian Wushuang said sincerely, raising his wine cup. His 3 senior brothers all accepted his gratitude and drained their cups. Then, Bai Hu, who was evidently the most outspoken one out of the 3, gave a hearty smile and said, Junior brother, even if we did not get to you in time today, you wouldn't be in any danger at all. Yeah. Shui Ling Tian and Purple Mountain also nodded in agreement. Really? Jian Wushuang could not help but feel bemused. If his 3 senior brothers had not arrived in time, could he really have gotten out of trouble unscathed? Junior brother, don't forget that you still have our master on your side, Bai Hu said with a grin. Master? Jian Wushuang looked taken aback. This was not because he did not have much confidence in his master. On the contrary, he had great faith in his master Xianyi. If not, he would not have struck out without hesitation because of Xianyi's few words and made such a scene today. But deep down, Jian Wushuang was still a bit puzzled. After all, his master Xianyi was only an Eternal Realm expert. How could that be? Junior brother, don't belittle our master. Shui Ling Tian looked at Jian Wushuang and said solemnly, It's true that our master hasn't reached the level of Dao Master, but this does not mean he is inferior to those Dao Masters. In fact, it is the opposite. I've traveled around for years and met many Dao Masters. I even came into contact with some very powerful and influential figures in the eternal world. But I can say, among all the experts I met over those years, that in terms of unfathomable strength, our master definitely ranks first. Oh! Jian Wushuang felt surprised. Shui Ling Tian was one of the 18 masters of the Void Temple. He was widely known in the eternal world. His power and influence were also exceptional. A big shot like him certainly had dealings with many extraordinary experts. Among all those experts, how could Palace Master Xianyi rank first? Junior brother, you're one of the members of the Sword Palace in the ancient sect, aren't you? Shui Ling Tian suddenly asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. You know, many years ago when I was recruited, the ancient sect had no sword palace at all. The only palace they had was the Saber Palace, and our master was the palace master there at that time, Shui Ling Tian said. What? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Before the Sword Palace was established, there was a Saber Palace? And Xianyi was the palace master of this Saber Palace? Not only did the first senior brother experience this, but also the 2 of us. When I joined in the ancient sect, there was no Sword Palace or Saber Palace. All they had was the Spear Palace, and our master was the palace master of the Spear Palace, Purple Mountain said. Haha, I use an axe as my weapon. This is because when I was taken in, our master was the palace master of the Axe Palace in the ancient sect, Bai Hu said candidly. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was completely dumbstruck. He had noticed long ago that his senior brothers all used different weapons. His first senior brother Shui Lingtian wielded a saber, his second senior brother Purple Mountain employed a long spear, and his third senior brother Bai Hu relied on a giant axe. But at that time he did not think about it too much. After all, no one said that his master Xianxia would only take in experts who were good at the sword principle. However, at this moment Jian Wushuang finally realized that his master was not only an ace at the sword principle. Given that he had taught the three Dao masters, Shui Lingtian, Purple Mountain, and Bai Hu, he must have had an equally deep understanding of the saber principle, the spear principle, and the axe principle. Considering as well what Xianxia had said himself, he had also had profound study in many fields, such as refining weapons, making puppets, and concocting elixirs. The shock that Jian Wushuang felt became even greater. Xianxia had studied so many subjects and made profound achievements in all of those subjects. Was he even human? How mysterious! How unfathomable! This was what Jian Wushuang thought about Xianxia. Long before, he had already found his master very mysterious. But now, he realized that he still vastly underestimated him. Seeing Jian Wushuang's expression alter, Shui Lingtian and the other two were not surprised at all. Anyway, they had been through the same shock that Jian Wushuang was feeling now. So, junior brother, even if we hadn't come today, with our master's capability, you would never have fallen into the hands of the three magnates. I don't know much else, but I'm sure master could easily rescue you and take you away. Shui Lingtian beamed. Really? Jian Wushuang nodded. Then, he asked, Senior brothers, you've followed the leadership of our master for so many years, but do you have any inside information about him? No, I don't. Bai Hu shook his head without hesitation. I don't know much either. Purple Mountain gave a wry smile. I'm the one who has been around our master the longest, but I also have no real insight into him at all. Well, judging by his daily behaviors, I can tell that our master is the kind of man who desires nothing. He doesn't pursue anything but always follows his heart. Taking us in as his personal disciples is also a decision he made in the course of nature. Shui Lingtian said subtly. And our master cares a lot about us, but he has never asked us to do anything for him. It's been at least more than 100,000 years since I joined our master, and he never once ordered me to do his biddings. Instead, it was me who often sought help from him. When Jian Wushuang heard the accounts of his three senior brothers, he found this thing rather funny. Desires nothing? Always follows his heart. My master is really a puzzle. In fact, in our ancient sect, our master is not the only one who is mysterious. There is another unfathomable man, and he is our sect master. Shui Lingtian spoke again. The sect master of our ancient sect? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. It was true that the sect master of the ancient sect was very mysterious as well. Jian Wushuang had joined the ancient sect a long time ago, but he had not met the sect master yet. The daily errands of the ancient sect were all delegated to the palace masters of the Dao Palace. Even if the ancient sect encountered danger, as long as the ancient sect was not about to be fully destroyed, the sect master normally would not show his face. Even the many palace masters of the Dao Palace in the ancient sect had not met the sect master in person in 10,000 years, let alone Jian Wushuang. I followed our master for over 100,000 years, but during this a long period, I only saw the sect master once. And the sect master left me the impression he was really eccentric, Shui Lingtian said, scowling. First senior brother, you at least met him once. Third junior brother, and I have never met him. Purple Mountain gave a bitter smile. At this, Jian Wushuang was also shocked. The sect master of the ancient sect was honored as the top-ranking expert in the firmament territory. But no one had met him other than a handful of people. How could it be? This was really weird. You guys, what are you talking about? A soft voice suddenly fluttered in. Then, Palace Master Xianxia slowly came in wearing a white robe. Jian Wushuang and the others instantly stood up and bowed to Xianxia. Greetings, dear master. It's okay. Don't be a stranger. No need to be so polite with me. Have a seat, Xianxia said, waving a hand. Jian Wushuang and the others sat down again. Xianxia also took a seat by the table and helped himself to a cup of wine. What were you guys talking about just now? I heard you chatting merrily. Xianxia took a sip of wine and asked casually. Nothing. It's just that the first time we get together with our junior brother, we all became a bit more talkative, Baihu said, laughing heartily. Jian Wushuang and the other guys also forced a smile, but they looked rather embarrassed. They could not just say they were discussing how mysterious their master was, right? Yeah, I understand. Since it's the first time you met your junior brother, being his senior brothers, shouldn't you three give him some gifts? Xianxia said with great interest. Gifts? Jian Wushuang was a little taken aback, but Xue Lingtian and the other two were not surprised. It was perfectly normal to give a junior brother a gift at their first meeting. When Xue Lingtian first met Purple Mountain and Baihu, he also gave them gifts. This time they knew they were going to meet Jian Wushuang, so they all prepared something as gifts. Junior brother, when I got the message from our master and learned that I was about to meet you, I put in a lot of thought and selected a gift for you. Well, here it is, Baihu said at once. As these words faded, he took out a colorful fruit with a delicate fragrance. Third senior brother, this is? Jian Wushuang looked at the colorful fruit with bewilderment. This fruit had 7 different colors and even gave out 7 unique fragrances. Jian Wushuang could tell at first glance that it was very precious. This is a 7-colored Dao fruit, a treasure that can facilitate the understandings of the origin Dao. Baihu explained. I know you're just a divine realm expert. If you want to reach the eternal realm, you have to choose one Dao and fully grasp its 9 occults. But now you're still far from reaching that step, aren't you? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded seriously. To break through the eternal realm, an expert had to gain a thorough comprehension of the 9 occults of one Dao. And this was the most basic thing he must achieve. So far, Jian Wushuang had not reached this step. Although he already made significant progress in World Dao and Slaughter Dao after studying for 100 years in the Eternal Zone, he was still far from fully comprehending the 9 occults. The more he studied, the harder it became. Jian Wushuang had an extraordinary talent. He had, after all, reached the deification realm. But despite his talent, this realm could not give him the same power of understanding as he experienced in the heaven-treading realm. God knew when he could really master the 9 occult of one Dao. He chuckled. Haha! This 7-colored Dao fruit is a treasure that can substantially raise your understanding of the origin Dao. Once you eat it, even if you don't try to comprehend Dao on purpose, as it will gradually grow more powerful, you can certainly grasp the 9 occults of one Dao in 1,000 years. If you work a little bit harder with your talent, you could definitely become an eternal realm expert in less than 300 years. Baihu smiled. At this, Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. He actually had no idea when he could make another breakthrough and reach the eternal realm. According to his own estimation, it would at least take him 1,000 years. But now, with the help of this 7-colored Dao fruit, he could save more than half of that time. This was indeed a precious treasure. Thank you so much, third senior brother, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. You're welcome, Baihu said forthrightly. Third junior brother, since you already took out the 7-colored Dao fruit, if I don't present something more valuable, I will not be qualified to be your second senior brother, Purple Mountain said with a small grin. Of course, you joined the ancient sect before me, and you are stronger than me. You're supposed to present something more precious, Baihu said, his mouth twitching. Luckily, I also have prepared something for you. Junior brother, look. Purple Mountain smiled faintly and waved a hand. A figure over 3 meters tall suddenly materialized next to Purple Mountain. This figure issued no aura at all. It was clearly not a living thing. A puppet fighter? Jian Wushuang and Baihu both turned to look at it. They immediately knew this 3-meter-tall man was a puppet fighter. Junior brother, this puppet fighter is something I obtained by luck when I was adventuring years ago. It is at the level of the Eternal Realm, and what's more, it's at the peak of the Eternal Realm. Purple Mountain elaborated. This puppet fighter is driven by divine gems. The power it casts depends on the number of activated divine gems. If it releases its full power, it can confront a human expert at the peak of Step 6 of the Eternal Realm. The peak of Step 6 of the Eternal Realm? Jian Wushuang was taken aback. It was extremely difficult to cross each of the 6 steps of the Eternal Realm. When Jian Wushuang went all out and transformed into an ancient god, he could rival a normal expert at Step 4 of the Eternal Realm. If he really got desperate and resorted to his most powerful trump card, he could even be a threat to an expert at Step 5 of the Eternal Realm. However, this puppet was at Step 6 of the Eternal Realm, the top level of the Eternal Realm. And it was at the peak of Step 6. Owning this puppet fighter meant he had a fighter at the peak of Step 6 around him. You could imagine how rare this puppet fighter was. "Thank you so much, second senior brother," Jian Wushuang said hastily. "This puppet fighter serves no use to a Dao master, but it can save your life at critical moments. Anyway, you'd better be careful with it. Make careful use of it. After all, it needs divine gems to drive this puppet fighter, so the cost can be very high," Purple Mountain suggested. "Understood." Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. But Purple Mountain and Bai Hu both cast their eyes on Lingtian. The two had already presented their gifts, which were both quite precious and useful to Jian Wushuang. Now it was Lingtian's turn to present his gift. Being the first senior brother, Lingtian was the first one to join the ancient sect first among the 4, and he was the most powerful as well. Besides, he was also one of the 18 masters of the Void Temple. Thus, his gift must be even more impressive. "Junior brother," Lingtian spoke slowly. He took out a token and handed it over to Jian Wushuang. "This is my exclusive token. With it, whenever you go to the Void Temple to use a wormhole, you'll only need to pay 1/10 of the normal price. And, if you come across some danger in the journey or if some experts try to push you around, you can also show them this token. Then, they'll know you have a special relationship with me. For my sake, they certainly won't have a go at you." Jian Wushuang took the token. When he heard Lingtian's words, a rush of joy washed over him. He was just thinking about asking Lingtian for a token like this. But Lingtian had given one to him on his own accord. This token not only could help him use the wormholes of the Void Temple, but also represent the identity of Darkblader Master. It might save his life in dire circumstances. This token was absolutely priceless. However, seeing Lingtian only gave Jian Wushuang a token as a gift, Purple Mountain and Bai Hu pulled a long face. Bai Hu said frankly, "First senior brother, you've given both second senior brother and I a token like this. It's only natural that our junior brother shall get one, too. But it's a bit petty to present it as a gift at our first meeting. Isn't it?" "Yeah. First senior brother, this token is not enough for this occasion," Purple Mountain echoed. "I know," Lingtian shrugged. "Since Master sent the message telling us we would have another junior brother, I've been preparing the gift for our first meeting. I have found a treasure, but that treasure is sort of unusual, and it takes some time to get. But, unexpectedly, Master summoned us to help our junior brother who was in danger. So I got here and met him earlier than expected." "Really? That explains it." Purple Mountain and Bai Hu were convinced. "Junior brother, I'll give you the gift when we meet next time, or I can send a guy to deliver it to you. But now I really can't present it. Hope you don't mind." Lingtian gave a wry smile. "Sure. I am already very grateful that first senior brother has put so much effort into preparing my gift. I certainly don't care if the delivery date is a bit late." Jian Wushuang beamed. "Okay." Lingtian nodded slightly. "When I obtain the treasure in a few days, I'll send it to you straight away. It will be quite helpful to you." Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was quite looking forward to this gift. "Junior brother, have you got any plans for the near future? Are you going to stay inside the ancient sect?" Bai Hu suddenly turned to look at him and asked. "In the near future?" Jian Wushuang pondered for a moment and shook his head. "I'll go out for some adventures." As expected, Bai Hu and the rest were not surprised at all at this. Well, the firmament territory is just a small parcel of land. Compared with the whole eternal world, it is miserably limited. And there are only a few experts here. With your current battle strength, junior brother, you surely need to travel more and see the vast world," Bai Hu said brightly. Jian Wushuang smiled but did not reply. Indeed, the firmament territory was rather small, and the number of experts here was also quite limited. With his current battle strength, almost no one in this firmament territory was a match for him but the Tao Masters. By this point, the firmament territory was no longer appealing to him. Jian Wushuang was also aware that when an expert in firmament territory sect reached step 4 of the Eternal Realm, he would usually go to other places for adventures. The three magnates, the ancient sect, and the rest of the top sects in the firmament territory had brought up many experts at or above step 4. Some of them even reached step 6 of the Eternal Realm. But those Eternal Realm experts had long ago left the firmament territory. Few of them ever came back. That was also the real reason why there were no Eternal Realm experts above step 4 in the firmament territory other than Xianxia. If Junior Brother is really going to visit places outside the firmament territory, I want to give you a star map that I believe will come in handy. As he spoke, Shueling Tian took out another token and handed it to Jian Wushuang. It contained geographic records of a vast domain. Taking the token, Jian Wushuang's mind raced. The view of a vast land instantly unscrolled before him. This land was so boundless that it was beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. The firmament territory where he was staying merely took up an insignificant part of the whole region. On this star map, there were innumerable territories similar to the firmament territory. How vast! Jian Wushuang could not help but exclaim. First Senior Brother is one of the 18 masters of the Void Temple. And the most impressive thing about this Void Temple is that it has loads of wormholes that lead to every corner of the eternal world. Thus, the star map you have received is the most complete and comprehensive map you can ever find. If you sell this star map in the market, the price shall be at least several million divine gems. Bai Hu said excitedly. Thank you very much, First Senior Brother, Jian Wushuang said immediately. You're welcome. Shueling Tian smiled. Junior Brother, the star map has brief introductions about all the marked places. Have a look and see which one you want to go to. Jian Wushuang started to examine this map at once. He looked through all the territories and soon fixed his eyes on an enormous region on the star map. There were no marked territories, but 4 big countries located in 4 directions. These 4 big countries took up nearly half of the whole star map. First Senior Brother, what are these 4 big countries? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. These are the 4 most powerful countries under control of my Void Temple. They are the Tang of the East, the West Paradise, the South Mountain Kingdom, and the North Sea Kingdom, Shueling Tian answered. Each of the 4 big countries has incredible foundation and strength. Among the 4 big countries, the most special one is the Tang of the East. Tang of the East? Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly contracted. The Tang of the East, Emperor Xiao, Di Jing, and Leng Rushuang were all from the Tang of the East. Emperor Xiao even built up a Tang of the East in Jian Wushuang's hometown, which was on the Nanyang continent of the ancient world. Di Jing also mentioned the prosperous Tang, but there was still a lot about this Tang of the East that Jian Wushuang did not understand. For example, what were the true identities of Emperor Xiao and Leng Rushuang there? Why did they fall to an ancient world? And what on earth was the icy heart poison that once poisoned Leng Rushuang? And why did Leng Rushuang take off for no reason? All these questions made Jian Wushuang long for a journey to the Tang of the East. First Senior Brother, you just said that of the 4 big counties, the Tang of the East was the most special. What does that mean? Jian Wushuang asked eagerly. I say it is special because the Tang of the East is the most ancient country among the 4 big countries, and it used to be the most powerful one as well. Shueling Tian explained. The Tang of the East is slightly younger than the Void Temple. It was founded shortly after the Void Temple was established. No one knows the name of the founder of Tang of the East. People only know that he built the Tang of the East and address him as Tang Emperor in reverence. Tang Emperor? Jian Wushuang made a mental note of this name. The Tang Emperor has an unparalleled strength. Back then, his strength was just slightly inferior to that of our mysterious Temple Master, the founder of the Void Temple. Nearly no one was his match except for our Temple Master. However, soon after the Tang Emperor founded the Tang of the East, he disappeared. No one saw him again after that. Shueling Tian said. Disappeared? Asked Jian Wushuang. He was intrigued. Although the Tang Emperor disappeared, He left 4 disciples to govern the Tang of the East on his behalf. These 4 disciples are also extremely powerful, and people call them the 4 emperors of the Eastern land. Shui Lingtian went on. The 4 emperors are Empress Qing, Emperor Shao, Emperor Yun, and Empress Lung. Each of the 4 emperors has reached the peak of the Tao Master. In particular, Empress Qing is the strongest. Her strength is so mighty that it is almost on par with that of Tang Emperor. Under the governance of the 4 emperors, the Tang of the East thrived and prospered. Its success astonished the world and convinced numerous countries to submit themselves to the rule of Tang of the East. This prosperity was unprecedented. When it was at the height of its power and splendor, even the most ancient void temple in the eternal world had to be scrupulous about the Tang of the East. Shui Lingtian sighed in admiration as he recounted the glory of the kingdom Tang. He continued, later on, the other 3 big countries rose one after another, but they were still in awe of the Tang of the East and never did dare to confront it openly. And that is the period we refer to as the prosperous Tang. Unfortunately, an unforeseen event occurred which spelled the end of this period of prosperity. What unforeseen event? Asked Jian Wushuang anxiously. I don't know the details. All I know is that Empress Qing, the strongest out of the 4 emperors, was the first to meet his downfall. Shui Lingtian said slowly. When Empress Qing died, Emperor Yun, a man who had always loved and admired her, was devastated. Then Emperor Yun left the Tang of the East by himself, and, just like his master Tang Emperor, disappeared. So the only 2 who remained were Emperor Shao and Empress Lung. The 2 were a couple at first. Under ordinary circumstances, with their excellent abilities, they could still make the Tang of the East flourish if they worked together. But for some unknown reason, not long after Emperor Yun took off, rumors abound that the couple was in discord. Then, they completely severed their ties and even wielded a war against each other. That was the only internal conflict that the Tang of the East had ever experienced. That fight was incredulously fierce. Ultimately, Emperor Shao was defeated. She left the Tang of the East with her subordinates and concealed her whereabouts, leaving Empress Lung alone to take charge of the Tang of the East. Despite Empress Lung's strength and peerless wisdom, the battle strength of the Tang of the East was greatly reduced after the death of Empress Qing and the departure of Emperor Yun. His internal conflicts with Emperor Shao had also exhausted the treasury and severely weakened the Tang of the East. The other 3 big countries seized the opportunity to put pressure on the Tang of the East, preventing it from regaining its prosperity. Today, the Tang of the East is the weakest among the 4 big countries. If not for the possible return of the Tang Emperor, the other 3 big countries would have long engulfed the Tang of the East. Really? Hearing Shui Lingtian's account, Jian Wushuang could not help but heave a sigh. After a series of mishaps, the Tang of the East had fallen from its position at the top and hit rock bottom. At this point, Jian Wushuang was filled with burning questions. For example, why had the Tang Emperor disappeared? How come Empress Qing was dead? And why did the couple Emperor Shao and Empress Lung decide to turn against each other? Jian Wushuang was more confused than ever about the Tang of the East. I'm in debt to Emperor Shao. The Tang of the East means a lot to me, Jian Wushuang said. He clenched his hands and looked around. I've made up my mind. I'll go to the Tang of the East. Oh! Shui Lingtian and the others smiled, but they were not surprised. Experts in the Tang of the East were as abundant as clouds. It was a great place for adventuring. By the way, I also heard that Emperor Shao and Empress Lung once raised a daughter named Lung Rushuang. It is said that Lung Rushuang is so beautiful that she astounds everyone who sees her. She must be the most beautiful woman in the eternal world. She's also exceedingly skillful at playing the Eastern zither. Those who were lucky enough to hear her play, including some Tao masters, were intoxicated with her music. Junior brother, if you're fortunate enough to meet this beauty when traveling in the Tang of the East, don't miss this great chance. Shui Lingtian said with amusement. Lung Rushuang. Jian Wushuang beamed as the image of that extraordinary beauty instantly appeared in his mind. Lung Rushuang was definitely the most gorgeous woman Jian Wushuang had ever met. No one else was that beautiful. In terms of temperament, Jian Wushuang had never seen another woman who was more aloof. As for Leng Rushuang's musical talents, her music had truly intoxicated him more than once. Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly altered, and he looked in the direction of Xue Lingtian. First senior brother, you just mentioned that Emperor Xiao and Empress Leng had raised a daughter? Are you sure they only have one daughter? Yeah, I'm sure. Leng Rushuang is the only princess in the Tang of the East. Everybody knows that. What's the matter? Xue Lingtian asked, perplexed. Hearing this reply, Jian Wushuang's brows furrowed. If Leng Rushuang is the only daughter, then what about Leng Ruxue? Jian Wushuang's mind was racing. When Jian Wushuang was in the ancient world, Leng Ruxue had been the first person he had met. She was Leng Rushuang's younger sister, so she had to be Emperor Zhao's daughter. Although Jian Wushuang had not met Leng Ruxue after that, he would never forget the cute girl in filthy clothes. But if Emperor Xiao and Empress Leng only had one daughter, then who on earth was Leng Ruxue? Jian Wushuang shook his head and dismissed his thoughts. My present strength is, after all, very weak. After I've enhanced my strength, I'll go to the Tang of the East and search for all the answers. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. For the next few days, Jian Wushuang just sat with his master and 3 senior brothers, chatting and drinking merrily. Their chats revolved around the topic of the eternal world. Their talk went on for 3 days and nights. Swoosh! A figure suddenly appeared beside them. He was Palace Master Destruction, one of the 12 Palace Masters of the ancient sect. Palace Master Xianxia, the 3 magnates have delivered the things you asked for. Well, the 3 magnates acted quite speedily. Xianxia said with a faint smile. They must be fearful of us making a scene in their sects, so they didn't dare to delay the delivery. Baihu laughed. I'll go and have a look. Palace Master Xianxia followed Palace Master Destruction to check the treasures. Soon he returned. Master, nothing wrong with those treasures? Xue Lingtian asked. Nothing wrong. The 3 magnates know who they're dealing with. Xianxia smiled. Great. Xue Lingtian nodded and also got to his feet. He continued, Master, I still have many things to attend to in the Void Temple. Since the matter here is settled, please allow me to go back to the Void Temple now. We shall leave too. Baihu and Purple Mountain also stood up. This time, they had been summoned by Xianxia and had come in a hurry, although they were all in the middle of something. Now that the matter was over, they would naturally return to their own places. Well, just go. Xianxia waved a hand. Xue Lingtian and the other 2 bowed respectfully to Xianxia and then walked up to Jian Wushuang. Junior brother, this is my message token. If you encounter any problems, just let me know through this message token. Xue Lingtian smiled. Thanks, senior brother. Jian Wushuang responded in gratitude. Baihu and Purple Mountain also handed their message tokens to Jian Wushuang. The 3 of them then departed. As he watched his 3 senior brothers leave, Jian Wushuang involuntarily heaved a sigh. Although he had not interacted much with his 3 senior brothers, Jian Wushuang could tell that the 3 senior brother all treated him with sincerity. You kid? Xianxia looked at Jian Wushuang, still wearing a mild smile. Now that you've decided to travel, I won't stop you. Instead, I'll give you some treasures. Treasures? Jian Wushuang's heart lifted. Including you, I've taken in a total of 4 personal disciples so far. When your 3 senior brothers left the firmament territory for their adventures, I also prepared some treasures for them. Each of them received 3 treasures, and so will you. Xianxia said. This time, I'll give you these 3 treasures without asking for anything in return. But in future, I'll never give you anything free of charge. Even when you need my help to refine magic weapons or produce elixirs, you'll have to pay a price. Understand? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. It was already very generous for a master to give each of his disciples 3 treasures with no strings attached. After all, treasures would never be given freely. If one wanted them, he would need to fight for them with his own effort. The first treasure I reserved for you is a magic weapon. Xianxia said flatly. A magic weapon? Is it a sword? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, but not exactly a sword. Xianyi smiled. I've already given you the Emperor Sword. The Emperor Sword is an eternal weapon, the best of all the eternal weapons. Its power is already very impressive. Jian Wushuang nodded in agreement. The power of the Emperor Sword was indeed remarkable. During his fierce battles in recent years, the only weapon Jian Wushuang had used was the Emperor Sword. As he made progress, he was able to fully utilize the potential of the Emperor Sword. In turn, this magic weapon at the peak of the Eternal Realm enhanced his battle strength as well. The Emperor Sword is a pretty good weapon for battles. But it is not enough to be your trump card or help you maximize your battle strength. Thus, I want to give you another treasure. A magic weapon that has surpassed the Eternal Realm. Yeah, this is it. Xianyi smiled and held his palm out. A miniature mountain appeared on his palm. It was covered in green woods and forest and looked rather like a real mountain. Master, what's this? Jian Wushuang stared at this miniature mountain in amazement. This was the magic weapon that Xianyi had prepared for him? This was just a scaled-down version of a mountain. Well, you don't recognize it? Xianyi was still beaming at Jian Wushuang. You've spent a total of 6 years at this place practicing martial skills. Practiced for 6 years? Jian Wushuang was taken aback. He gazed at the miniature mountain with a terrified look. This is the Sword Mountain? Jian Wushuang stuttered. He had stayed for a relatively long period in the ancient sect. He had spent 6 years on the Sword Mountain for study and practice. However, the Sword Mountain was a majestic mountain. While now, Jian Wushuang stared unblinkingly at the small mountain on Xianyi's palm. Its appearance was truly quite similar to the Sword Mountain that he had lived on for years despite the disparity in size. Your eyes didn't betray you. This is truly the Sword Mountain. I've refined the Sword Mountain with special means. Didn't I ask the 3 magnates for 5 kilograms of the orichalcum? That is because I need it to further refine this Sword Mountain. Xianyi said, beaming. Jian Wushuang couldn't believe his ears. Refining a huge mountain into a treasure? What kind of means did Xianyi use? Don't look down on it. The Sword Mountain itself has some very powerful restriction formations. Though I've refined it, those restriction formations can still work. Therefore, there are 2 major uses of this Sword Mountain. First, it can turn into a sword-shaped offensive magic weapon. As he spoke, Xianyi flipped his palm. The miniature mountain in his hand instantly started to change. Very quickly, it turned into a long sword which was more than 2 meters long. This long sword was scarlet, as if it had been soaked in blood. Moreover, though it was a magic weapon transformed from a mountain, the edge of the long sword was extremely sharp and glinted with chilling light. This, Jian Wushuang goggled at the 2-meter-long scarlet long sword. It looked quite normal on the surface. But when Jian Wushuang saw its sword heart, he saw a world of hell with innumerable corpses littering the ground and a vast ocean of blood. This was definitely the appalling sword of killing. What a horrible sword! Jian Wushuang exclaimed. This is the state when you use it as an offensive magic weapon. If you also turn into an ancient god, you can control its size. Next, I'll show you the mountain that it can change into. As Xianyi finished these words, he tossed the weapon up in the air. Rumbling, a gigantic mountain suddenly appeared in the void over their heads. It obscured the sun and the sky as it fell rapidly towards them. At the bottom of the mountain, there were countless abstruse and mysterious cracks. These looked like open mouths that would swallow everything in their path. This state is devised to suppress your enemies. It has a built-in secret skill for suppression. When you refine it and become its master, you can directly grasp this skill. Xianyi said. Suppression. Jian Wushuang said with a curious expression. He had never heard that a magic weapon could, in addition to releasing overbearing offensive power, turn into a mountain to suppress the opponent. He had also never witnessed anyone try to refine a huge mountain into a magic weapon. The only explanation was the unusual means that his master had used. Take this magic weapon now. You can refine it and become its official owner. Xianyi's mind stirred, causing the gigantic mountain to shrink and return to his palm. He handed the miniature sword mountain to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it. Stifling his astonishment, he started to refine the weapon to take ownership of it. This process went quite smoothly. After a moment, Jian Wushuang successfully mastered the magic weapon. Now, he could fully control the magic weapon. He could direct the magic weapon to turn into a 2-meter-long scarlet longsword or transform into a real mountain. He had also learnt another secret skill about suppression. This secret skill, together with the sword mountain, would easily suppress the opponent. Once suppressed, his opponent's life would be under Jian Wushuang's control even if he was a Dao master. This really is an incredible magic weapon, Jian Wushuang said in admiration. Master, does this magic weapon have a name? I just refined it so I haven't named it yet. Why don't you do it? Xianxia beamed. Name it. Jian Wushuang squinted. He flipped his hand and the magic weapon turned into a 2-meter scarlet longsword. Its aura was overwhelming. Since this sword was refined from the sword mountain, and it is as scarlet as blood, I shall call it the Blood Mountain Sword. Jian Wushuang muttered. Blood Mountain Sword? Xianxia shrugged indifferently. This magic weapon is extraordinarily powerful and valuable. You need to be prudent when using it. You'd better not use it except in dire circumstances. When I refined this magic weapon, I used my skills to conceal its aura and some of its wonders. Most won't be able to see its special qualities. Anyone perceptive enough to detect its extraordinary features would certainly kill you for it, even if he is already a Dao master. Even a Dao master would want to have it? Jian Wushuang was taken aback. Then he nodded gravely. He knew that the Blood Mountain Sword was quite unusual. He would never resort to using it unless he was desperate. I've presented you with the first treasure. Next, I'll show you the second one. Xianxia took out another token. A token? Jian Wushuang looked at it. This token is devised to save your life. Xianxia smiled blandly. When you fought against Tian Yunzi's doppelganger, you crumbled a wilted leaf and nearly killed it. You must have obtained that wilted leaf in the Eternal Zone, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. The token I'll give you is of the same nature as that wilted leaf, but it's more useful. Xianxia said. This token contains 3 streaks of sword essences. Once you've refined it, you can guide the 3 streaks of sword essence to battle with your enemies or to break up a formation. Anyway, only use it at crucial moments. The first streak of sword essence is the weakest and the third is the strongest. Although the first streak of sword essence is the most vulnerable one, it is comparable to, and may even exceed the power of the wilted leaf you used. Jian Wushuang was stunned. The first streak among the 3 streaks of sword essence was the weakest, but it was still more powerful than the one Elder Yi had stored in the wilted leaf. Elder Yi was a 3-star ancient god. He released Dao Master's power even if he just pointed at a random spot. When Jian Wushuang had crushed that wilted leaf, the power released had been staggering. Even the original body of Tian Yunzi was hurt when he strode forward to block the power. But the 3 streaks of sword essence were more powerful? Master, how did you come by such a powerful token? Jian Wushuang asked skeptically. Haha, I actually got this token by luck, Xianxia explained. Back then, when I was traveling around, I met a sword principle expert whose strength was terrifying. His name was Sword 11. In the Eternal World, he was known as the Sunrise Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Given that Sword 11 was referred to as Sword Emperor, his sword principle cultivation must be extraordinary. Sword 11's cultivation in swordsmanship reached great heights a long time ago. When I first met him, he happened to be in need of my help. So I did him a favor. He gave me this token as a reward. Xianxia recounted his story with a smile. That's it. Jian Wushuang scowled suspiciously. Could this be the real story? A sword emperor of the Eternal World had asked his master for a favor? Jian Wushuang shook his head and took the token without a second thought. Now I've given you 2 treasures. As for the third treasure, it's the same as your first senior brother's gift. Xianxia beamed at Jian Wushuang and said, the third treasure is quite special. Even I find it extremely hard to refine. At present, I'm still preparing it and cannot give it to you yet. Later, I'll find a suitable time to deliver it to you. Yeah. Thank you, Master. Jian Wushuang nodded in anticipation. Xue Lingtian was a man of prominent status and dreadful strength. If even he needed to expend some effort to prepare it, Jian Wushuang knew that the gift had to be extremely valuable. Now, his master, who could refine a natural mountain into a peerless magic weapon with brilliant skills, was preparing the third treasure for him. Since his master found it difficult to refine, it must be even more impressive. Although Jian Wushuang could not get his hands on the two treasures yet, he was already quite contented. Master, there is one more thing I wanted to ask. Jian Wushuang said abruptly. Go ahead, Xianxia said, still beaming. I spent 100 years in the Eternal Zone. During those years, the ancient god clan in the Eternal Zone treated me as their own clansman. That's why I didn't die but instead became stronger, Jian Wushuang said. He stared at Xianxia, anxious at how he would react. Xianxia merely sniffed, but his expression was unchanged. He remained mild-mannered and did not appear pleased or angry. Do you know why they treated me like that, Master? Asked Jian Wushuang. How would I know that? Xianxia shook his head repeatedly. Does the whole thing really have nothing to do with the universal Tao scripture that you gave me? Jian Wushuang's brows furrowed. He had speculated at length about why he had the bloodline of the ancient god clan. The most likely explanation was the universal Tao scripture. The universal Tao scripture? Xianxia laughed. You're overanalyzing this. The universal Tao scripture is unusually powerful, but not to the extent that it can change the soul and bloodline that a man has inherited since his birth. Therefore, the fact that you have the bloodline of the ancient god clan is not directly related to the universal Tao scripture. It's not because of the universal Tao scripture? Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were deeply furrowed now. If it was not because of the universal Tao scripture, where did his ancient god bloodline come from? Was he really born with it? But he has been born in the Sword Marquis mansion. He was a descendant of the Sword ancestor, who had nothing to do with the ancient god clan. He could not have inherited the bloodline of the ancient god clan from his father's family. Could it be my mother? Jian Wushuang's expression changed suddenly. It was clear that his father's bloodline had no connection with the ancient god clan. But his mother, well, Jian Wushuang still had no idea who his mother really was. If his mother did have something to do with the ancient god clan, that might be the real cause. Well, heaving a sigh, Jian Wushuang stopped his ruminations. He lifted his head. His eyes were filled with determination. He said, There are more puzzles in my head now. Seems that the only thing I can do now is to improve my strength. When I become powerful enough, I'll search for the answers one by one. After talking with Xianxia for a while, Jian Wushuang was ready to depart. Before leaving, he bid farewell to the friends who had joined the ancient sect with him. Jian Wushuang reunited with Feng, Huaying, Bingshan, Xianxia, and Wu Huang on the Enlightenment Mountain, where the six of them drank and chatted. All of them were from the ancient world. They had been chosen by Xianxia after displaying their talents during the Firmament Territory Feast and had been brought to the ancient sect at the same time. Apart from Jian Wushuang, Feng had the greatest achievement among the six of them. He had reached the level of the superior divine realm expert. Given that his master, Palace Master Destruction, was teaching him personally, it was only a matter of time before he broke through the eternal realm. As for the other four, although they were all divine realm experts, their achievements were limited and their chances of breaking through the eternal realm were quite slim. Jian Wushuang, among all the guys I've met, I admire you most. You're just a divine realm expert, but you defeated all the eternal realm experts of the three magnates. That's unbelievable. Huaying raised his cup and exclaimed. The story of that battle had long since spread across the entire Firmament Territory. Everyone, including the ancient sect disciples, was aware of Jian Wushuang's remarkable showing at the battle. Now, those disciples regarded Jian Wushuang as their role model and could not help singing his praises when they traveled outside. After all, Jian Wushuang was a member of their ancient sect. Jian Wushuang, I heard you are going to leave the Firmament Territory and travel around the world? Feng looked at Jian Wushuang and asked. Yeah. Jian Wushuang nodded and smiled. I'm here just to say goodbye to you guys. Tut tut. Leaving the firmament territory. Master once mentioned that traveling alone outside without the strength of an eternal realm expert was courting death. If we did that, we might get killed by bandits wandering about. But you've only stayed in the eternal world for 100 years. Yet you're ready to go outside by yourself. That's impressive. Feng was effusive in his praise. Ha ha. Jian Wushuang laughed. Then, he raised his cup and said, "Stop flattering me. Come on, let's drink." The six continued to drink. Their drinking feast lasted for 1 day and 1 night. Thereafter, Jian Wushuang sent a message to Palace Master Xianxia and then left the ancient sect. The moment Jian Wushuang took off, Palace Master Xianxia summoned all the palace masters of the Dao Palace and the top-level experts of the ancient sect. In a magnificent hall, Palace Master Xianxia sat at the highest spot and looked down at the experts of the ancient sect as he gave his orders. From now on, our ancient sect has no sword palace. Xianxi's booming voice reverberated through the hall. His words shocked every expert, but he continued without showing any concern. I'll create a new palace. As for the name, just call it the Staff Palace. Following its predecessors, the Saber Palace, the Spear Palace, the Axe Palace, and the Sword Palace, the Staff Palace was finally established in the ancient sect. After leaving the ancient sect, Jian Wushuang did not hurry to get out of the firmament territory. This was because there was an important thing he needed to do before he left. The sky was azure blue and as clear as a polished porcelain plate. In the midst of a mountain range, lightning struck continuously and formed a vast sea of thunderbolts which surrounded a huge sect. This was the Universal Thunder Sect. The Universal Thunder Sect was a very powerful medium sect in the firmament territory. Among the medium sects in the firmament territory, the Universal Thunder Sect was regarded as one of the best, which was only second in the 9 top-ranking sects in the firmament territory. Swoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in the void over the sect. Universal Thunder Sect. Clothed in a black robe with a long sword strapped to his back, Jian Wushuang looked down at the sect with a cold expression on his face. Jian Wushuang was very familiar with the Universal Thunder Sect. The Universal Thunder Sect was the first sect in the eternal world that he had engaged. Back then, he had struggled to hunt down Su Ming, the man who had betrayed the bloodline of the Sword Ancestor. Jian Wushuang had even overcome the Dark Emperor, a top 3 expert in the ancient world, who had barred his way. But in the end, he had still failed to kill Su Ming. It was because when Su Ming was in the ancient world, he had obtained a token of a Universal Thunder Sect expert. Just as Jian Wushuang was about to murder Su Ming, the latter had crumbled the token. In an instant, a divine realm expert of the Universal Thunder Sect had descended and spirited Su Ming away. At that time, Su Ming had begged the divine realm expert to kill Jian Wushuang on the spot. But fortunately, Di Jing had launched an attack and saved Jian Wushuang's life. Later, when Jian Wushuang arrived at the Eternal World, he had kept an eye on the Universal Thunder Sect. Being a medium sect, the Universal Thunder Sect had multiple Eternal Realm experts to guarantee their security. Jian Wushuang was only a disciple of the ancient sect. Without employing the power of the ancient sect, Jian Wushuang was powerless against the Universal Thunder Sect. Now, the situation had changed. According to the files I attained from the ancient sect, there are a total of 5 Eternal Realm experts in the Universal Thunder Sect. But their strength levels are just average. The strongest one among them only has battle strength at step 3, and the protective array they have is not too powerful. I can totally wipe out this kind of sect by myself. The killing intent rose up in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Su Ming had betrayed and destroyed his ancestor. He was responsible for the irreversible decline of the bloodline of the Sword Ancestor. Back then, Su Ming had pushed Jian Wushuang against the wall. Now, Jian Wushuang was definitely going to take revenge on him. Su Ming must be killed. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. Instantly, a stream of frightening killing intent was directed towards the sect with immense pressure. Rumbling sounds were heard as formidable pressure penetrated the protective array of the Universal Thunder Sect. The entire area of the Universal Thunder Sect started to tremble. Many warriors leaped up in alarm. Who is it? The 5 Eternal Realm experts of the Universal Thunder Sect were also alerted. They immediately appeared in the void above the Universal Thunder Sect. The 5 stood side by side. One of them was a purple-haired elder whose forehead bore a mark in the shape of a thundercloud. The purple-haired elder scowled at Jian Wushuang. He could feel that Jian Wushuang was the cause of the horrible pressure that made him shudder. A divine realm expert? The purple-haired elder was astonished. How can a divine realm expert exert so much pressure? Could he be? It's him, it's Jian Wushuang. A woman behind him shrieked in shock. At the Firmament Territory feast, I met him in the Skyward Pavilion. I'm sure it's him. Jian Wushuang. On hearing his name, the 5 Eternal Realm experts of the Universal Thunder Sect felt a chill. Jian Wushuang was no longer the man he was 100 years ago. Not long ago, when the Eternal Zone was opened, the 3 magnates had put in their best efforts to take on Jian Wushuang, but they had failed. Jian Wushuang's strength was widely known. Although he was merely a divine realm expert, his true power was much greater than any of them. The Universal Thunder Sect could ill afford to mess with an illustrious figure like him. Reflecting on this, the purple-haired elder gave an embarrassed smile and said humbly, "Are you the young fellow Jian Wushuang from the ancient sect?" "Yes, I am." Jian Wushuang answered coldly. "I am Lei Yan, the vice sect master of the Universal Thunder Sect. I wonder what instructions you have for us today." "Vice sect master?" Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. "Where is your sect master?" "Young fellow, our Universal Thunder Sect has a total of 3 sect masters. But they left for their travels long ago, so they're not in our sect now," Lei Yan said. "Oh." Jian Wushuang nodded. He knew that regardless of their sects, all experts in the Firmament Territory who were ambitious and craved for more strength would venture outside when their strength reached a certain level. The same went for the 3 sect masters of the Universal Thunder Sect. "Lei Yan, I'll cut to the chase. A disciple of the Universal Thunder Sect is my foe. If you hand him over to me, I'll take off straight away and not lay a finger on your Universal Thunder Sect." Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. "An implacable foe?" Lei Yan was appalled. "Who has been so ignorant to provoke you? My young fellow, tell us who he is. Even if you don't act, our Universal Thunder Sect will immediately kill him to give vent to your indignation." "This man's name is Su Ming. 100 years ago, someone from the Universal Thunder Sect picked him up from the ancient world," Jian Wushuang said. "Su Ming." Lei Yan was confused momentarily, but soon understanding dawned on him. "It's him. Seems that you know who I'm looking for, right?" Jian Wushuang's lips curled. "Hand him over." Lei Yan gave a bitter smile and said, "My young fellow Jian Wushuang, sorry. I can't hand him over." "What did you say?" Jian Wushuang's face darkened. The killing intent that had initially subsided now reemerged. "Please calm down, my young fellow." Lei Yan's face was sour. "It's not that our Universal Thunder Sect is unwilling to give him to you. It's because he already left our Universal Thunder Sect a long time ago." "Left?" Jian Wushuang's expression altered. "Yes, he left." Lei Yan continued to explain. "I know Su Ming. He had in his possession something that Sect Master Lei Xian had left in the ancient world. So Sect Master Lei Xian dispatched a man to bring him here from the ancient world. He did stay in our Universal Thunder Sect for some time, but he left us. It's been over 100 years since he left. Well, I remember it was exactly the time when the Firmament Territory feast had concluded and you started to be famous that Sect Master Lei Xian sent his men to see Su Ming off." "Really? You're not tricking me, are you?" Jian Wushuang looked into Lei Yan's eyes. "I wouldn't dare, young fellow. If you don't believe me, I can shut down the protective array of our Universal Thunder Sect and let you in to make a careful search." As he finished his words, Lei Yan sent a guy to shut down the protective array. Jian Wushuang realized that Lei Yan was telling the truth. "The Sect Master Lei Xian whom you mentioned is one of the 3 sect masters of your Universal Thunder Sect, isn't he?" Jian Wushuang demanded. "Yes." Lei Yan nodded. "Sect Master Lei Xian has long since left us and has been traveling. He hasn't returned for a long period. Su Ming was lucky to find the token left by Sect Master Lei Xin in the ancient world and got himself connected to Sect Master Lei Xin. Before Su Ming, Sect Master Lei Xin had no disciples. Judging from the current situation, he is going to take Su Ming in as his disciple, and this is why he sent Su Ming away. Do you know where Sect Master Lei Xin is? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, I do. Sect Master Lei Xin is on the Circus Island, and he seems to have joined an influential organization. Lei Yan replied honestly. Circus Island? Something occurred to Jian Wushuang. He took out the star map that Shui Lingtian had given him and started to peruse that map. A few seconds later, he spotted the whereabouts of the Circus Island. It's here, near the Kingdom Tang of the Eastern Land? Jian Wushuang's eyes gleamed. He had planned to head to the Kingdom Tang of the Eastern Land first, and the Circus Island happened to be on the route that he would be taking. After passing the Circus Island, he would reach the Kingdom Tang of the Eastern Land. Great Circus Island is on the way to that kingdom. Jian Wushuang smiled. He cast a look at Lei Yan and his companions and said, Excuse me. As his words faded, Jian Wushuang leaped up and vanished from sight. Watching Jian Wushuang disappear, Lei Yan and the other 4 Eternal Realm experts of the Universal Thunder Sect heaved sighs of relief. They were worried that Jian Wushuang would vent his anger on the Universal Thunder Sect because of Su Ming. With Jian Wushuang's abilities, it was no problem for him to destroy the entire Universal Thunder Sect. Never thought that the disciple Sect Master Lei Xin had taken in is a sworn enemy of Jian Wushuang. Now we're in trouble. An Eternal Realm expert blurted. Lei Yan, what shall we do now? The other Eternal Realm experts all turned to look at Lei Yan. At present, it was Lei Yan who was in charge of the Universal Thunder Sect. Send a message to Sect Master Lei Xin and tell him to handle this matter. Lei Yan said. Tip him off. The rest were taken aback. If they warned Sect Master Lei Xin, would they upset Jian Wushuang? Our Universal Thunder Sect truly cannot piss off Jian Wushuang. That's a fact. Sect Master Lei Xin is one of the 3 Sect Masters of our Universal Thunder Sect. He can't forbid us from sending our Sect Master a message. Can he? Lei Yan grunted. In reality, he was unsure about the answer as well. After his visit to the Universal Thunder Sect, Jian Wushuang had nothing else to attend to in the Firmament territory. Thus, he took off on the same day. Several days later, in the sky over a vast wasteland outside the Firmament territory. Whoosh! 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 10 bandits besieged a black-robed youth carrying a long sword. A brown-haired man who seemed to be their leader snarled, Brat, you just got out of the Firmament territory, right? A divine realm expert dares travel out of the Firmament territory. How stupid you are. Ha ha! The other bandits burst out laughing. Given that you're a dumbass, as long as you hand over your interspatial ring and all the treasures you're carrying, we will spare your life. Otherwise, you'll die, the brown-haired man bellowed. There was a chilly look in his eyes. Surrounded by the bandits, Jian Wushuang looked around with the trace of a smile on his lips. I heard that there were many bandits robbing travelers in the gray zone. It would be highly risky to travel across the gray zone without Eternal Realm strength. I finally learnt today that it's true. Jian Wushuang glanced at the bandits around him and discovered that most of them were Divine Realm experts, whereas that brown-haired man was a real Eternal Realm expert. The Eternal World must be more brutal than the Ancient World. In places within territories like the Firmament territory, there were assorted sects in control. Therefore, there was still some semblance of order. In the Eternal World, many places were not within any territories. These included the common boundaries or intervals between territories and could span a considerably large area. Those places were called the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone was quite a mess. Nobody had bothered to restore order, so bandits were rampant and experts passing by usually became their targets. Therefore, rumors abound in the Firmament territory that traveling in a Gray Zone without reaching the Eternal Realm was courting death. The bandits never picked their victims randomly. They had no fear of Divine Realm experts. Any of the bandits could easily rob a Divine Realm expert. But if the traveler had reached the Eternal Realm, The Eternal Realm consisted of 6 steps, and it was extremely difficult to cross the gap between each of the 6 steps of the Eternal Realm. To judge which step an expert was at, it would depend on his sword heart, saber heart, etc. But the true power of the sword heart or saber heart would not be apparent if the expert did not display his real skills. Hence, even if an Eternal Realm expert stood before you, you would never know his strength unless he struck. It was possible that the person was an Eternal Realm expert who had not even crossed the threshold of Step 1. But he could also be an expert at the peak of Step 6 of the Eternal Realm. Due to the difficulty in identifying the level of an Eternal Realm expert, bandits would usually not have a go at them. Seeing that Jian Wushuang was merely a Divine Realm expert, the bandits targeted him. I just left the Firmament territory and am on my way to the Tang of the East. That is a really distant kingdom. I probably have to spend years to get there. It'll be too boring if I travel on my own for such a long period. But if there are bandits to entertain me, that'll be fantastic. And you bandits seem pretty powerful. One of you has even reached the Eternal Realm. It's a good chance for me to hone my swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang smiled. In the next moment, he leaped forward with incredible speed. As he did so, a streak of invincible sword essence also burst out. You want to put up a fight? The brown-haired man was furious. He barked, "Guys, kill him!" The two sides immediately crossed swords. Jian Wushuang demonstrated his swordsmanship at once. He did not unleash his full strength. On the contrary, he deliberately stifled his power and maintained it at the basic level of a superior Divine Realm expert. He started to fight solely with his swordsmanship. Nevertheless, his brilliant swordsmanship enabled him to dispatch the ordinary Divine Realm experts easily. As for the brown-haired man, he was an Eternal Realm expert but had not even crossed the threshold of Step 1. Even though Jian Wushuang had repressed his power, he was still able to destroy him with his swordsmanship. In just a few minutes, the bandits who had besieged Jian Wushuang were all dead, including the brown-haired man. None of them had managed to escape. "Go ahead." Jian Wushuang set off and continued to head in the direction of the Tang of the East with the help of the star map. He traveled along the borders of territories. Very often, he would run into bandits in the gray zone and fight them. By fighting those bandits, Jian Wushuang was improving himself and his swordsmanship. Every time he fought, he would deliberately constrain his power and leave his sword heart inactivated. He merely relied on swordsmanship to fight his opponents. He only went all out when he encountered really powerful experts. But none of the bandits in the gray zone were of that caliber. So far, the strongest one Jian Wushuang met was merely at Step 4 of the Eternal Realm. As for the experts who were at or above Step 5 of the Eternal Realm, they had no need to be bandits. In any territory, they would be big shots. Therefore, with Jian Wushuang's strength, traveling in the gray zone was not that dangerous. Time passed as Jian Wushuang traveled and upgraded his power in numerous battles. Splash! A vast and boundless sea surged with great momentum. The seawater was as blue as the sky, with waves moving across its surface. A large island floated in the center of this boundless sea. Although it was called an island, its land area was huge. Its diameter was hundreds of miles. It was the Cirsus Island. It was the place that Jian Wushuang would pass on his way to the Tang of the East. The Cirsus Island was also the place where Sect Master Lei Xian of Universal Thunder Sect and Su Ming were staying. Clothed in black robes with a long sword strapped to his back, Jian Wushuang watched the huge island from the void over the endless sea with his arms crossed. It's been 37 years. Have I finally arrived at the Cirsus Island? Jian Wushuang smirked. The Cirsus Island was more than millions of miles away from the Firmament territory. Between the two, there were over 100 territories. Normally, if a man wanted to travel to this place from the Firmament territory, it would certainly take him at least 100 years, perhaps longer if there were delays from encounters with bandits. Jian Wushuang had managed this in merely 37 years. When he had entered a territory that was a branch of the Void Temple, he had spent 10 million divine gems to use the space wormhole, which sent him directly to a spot very close to the Cirsus Island. Cirsus Island was very prosperous. There were plenty of shops and huge crowds of people. Soon after arriving on the island, Jian Wushuang found that the experts here had pretty high standards. There were countless divine realm experts here, and there were many experts at the Eternal Realm. When he arrived at the island, he headed directly for an intelligence shop. Please give me a piece of information about Sursus Island. The more detailed, the better, Jian Wushuang said to the attendant at the counter. The most detailed information will cost 100,000 divine gems. The attendant replied with a smile. It's so expensive. Jian Wushuang recoiled inwardly at the price. 100,000 divine gems was about all money that a superior divine realm expert would own. It's just a piece of detailed information about this island. The cost is exorbitant. Despite this, Jian Wushuang purchased the information at a cost of 100,000 divine gems. In the last 37 years that he spent traveling, he had met and killed scores of bandits, some of whom were experts at Step 1 or Step 2 of the Eternal Realm. He had obtained many divine gems from them, adding on to his stash from the Firmament territory. Now, he still had a large number of divine gems left after his trip through the wormhole of the Void Temple. Thus, 100,000 divine gems was relatively insignificant to Jian Wushuang. And I also want the details of an expert on Sursus Island, Jian Wushuang added. Who's? The attendant inquired. Lei Xian, he's a strong guy, an Eternal Realm expert. He should have broken through to Step 4 of the Eternal Realm at least, perhaps even Step 5. I heard that he has joined a great power, and that he has a disciple named Su Ming. Jian Wushuang replied flatly. Wait a minute, please, the attendant said as he looked down to search for information. After a while, he looked up again and continued. I found the details of the man you mentioned. This information is very valuable. The price is 200,000 divine gems. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang paid 200,000 divine gems. The attendant quickly arranged all the information, handed it to Jian Wushuang and said, This is what you've bought. Jian Wushuang took the information and placed it in his interspatial ring, then walked away. There were numerous shops and taverns on the busy streets of Sursus Island. Jian Wushuang entered a 3-story tavern. He chose a seat near the window and ordered a jug of wine. He began to drink while perusing the information he had bought. Tut! Tut! The Lord of Sursus Island is really awesome. Jian Wushuang gasped in admiration. According to the information he had obtained, there was a lord of this Sursus Island who possessed exceptional power. Sursus Island abutted the Tang of the East. Its location had led to a large number of experts passing through. Many experts often gathered on the island. Having to face so many experts, the Lord of Sursus Island had adopted a tough stance, and what he said carried weight. He had made many rules on Sursus Island, and no one had ever dared to break them, including the supreme experts in the level of Tao Master. It was said that a powerful Tao Master had once violated the rules, challenged the authority of the Lord of Sursus Island. The Lord had dealt with him personally. The powerful Tao Master had been immediately suppressed by the Lord of Sursus Island. The Lord's power may not be as great as that of the 4 emperors at the height of the Tang of the East, but many in the eternal world were in awe of his power. The information also mentioned that he was eccentric and that his rules were outlandish. The first rule was that private fighting and killing were not allowed on Sursus Island. For that reason, there was a blood battle arena on the island, which had been specially established for fights. In the blood battle arena, the fighters were not restrained even if someone was killed, whereas the fighters would come to a bad end if they fought on the other parts of the island and were caught. The Lord of Sursus Island built up the Sursus army at great expense to keep the peace on the island. Jian Wushuang read. Then he squinted through the window at the teams of purple-armored sergeants who occasionally passed the street below the tavern. Those sergeants were part of the Sursus army. The army, founded by the Lord of Sursus Island, consisted of 10,000 sergeants. Every sergeant in the army was carefully selected. Even the weakest sergeant had the battle strength of a superior divine realm expert, and the leader of a 10-sergeant squad was in the Eternal Realm. Within the Sursus army, the higher the rank of a sergeant, the more formidable he was. Of the 10,000 Sursus army sergeants, the weakest is the superior divine realm expert, and about 1,000 sergeants are experts in the Eternal Realm. Jian Wushuang was impressed. There were more Eternal Realm experts in the army than in all of the Firmament territory. The sergeants are scattered all over the island, so no matter where the fighting is happening, swift action can be taken by the army. In addition, some of the sergeants are at step 4 or 5 of the Eternal Realm, which guarantees that fierce fights can be easily suppressed. Jian Wushuang went on reading and thought to himself, if I fight on this island, I'm afraid I'll be put down by them too. Fortunately, this rule is not absolute, he murmured and smiled. The second rule of Circe's Island stated that anyone who had won 10 times in a row in the blood battle arena would be entitled to a Circe's token. That token gave its owner the privilege to kill people anywhere on the island. The first rule forbade fighting and killing, while the second gave some experts the privilege of killing. It demonstrated how strange the island owner's rules were. Blood battle arena? The information purchased by Jian Wushuang also contained details about the blood battle arena. The blood battle arena was the craziest killing field on Circe's Island, a battlefield for life or death duels. Many experts had fought each other in the blood battle arena. There were usually casualties for at least one side. Fighters typically met cruel ends, so the people who fought in the blood battle arena were real experts who had great confidence in themselves. After 10 consecutive victories in the blood battle arena, the winner would be given a Circe's token. The Circe's token gave the winner many privileges on Circe's Island, such as shopping concessions in all its shops, and the privilege of living on the island all year round. It was said that it was possible to obtain 100 victories in a row. However, few experts could achieve this, and such an expert may not show up one for hundreds of years. It was more common to see experts winning 10 consecutive victories. As Jian Wushuang went through the information, he suddenly noticed a handsome young man escorted by 2 guards into the shop opposite the tavern. Immediately, his face became grim, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Su Ming, Jian Wushuang muttered. He clenched his hands resentfully, and the cup in his hand nearly crumbled. After entering the shop, the handsome young man, Su Ming, walked quickly towards its interior, where a bald elder bearing a thundercloud mark between his eyes quietly sat cross-legged. Master, Su Ming greeted him respectfully. Elder Lei Xian. The 2 guards also addressed him courteously. Lei Xian nodded to them and turned his eyes on Su Ming. Where have you been? I've just been wandering the streets nearby, Master, Su Ming answered with a forced smile. Lei Xian's face abruptly darkened. Humph. I've warned you several times not to stay out of my sight for this period, but have you actually been listening? He reprimanded Su Ming coldly. Su Ming frowned and argued, Master, it's just Jian Wushuang. This is Circe's Island. Unless he is a fool, he would know the consequences of fighting on the island. Furthermore, I have 2 protectors with me. He doesn't have the ability to kill me even if he finds me. There's still a risk. Lei Yan told me that although Jian Wushuang may only be a divine realm expert, his strength is so extraordinary that even he, an expert at step 3 of the Eternal Realm, was frightened. If Jian Wushuang does try to assassinate you, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape, Lei Xian said in a deep tone. A divine realm expert had frightened an expert at step 3 of the Eternal Realm? Do you really believe that, Master? Su Ming sneered. Lei Xian squinted and looked, deep in thought. The gap between the divine realm and the Eternal Realm was huge. It was impressive for a divine realm expert to match an ordinary Eternal Realm expert. Such a divine realm expert could be regarded as the strongest divine realm expert. It was almost impossible for a divine realm expert to be stronger than an expert at step 3 of the Eternal Realm. In any case, Lei Xian had never seen or even heard of such a mighty expert before. It's always wise to play safe, Lei Xian told Su Ming gravely. He glanced at the 2 guards beside Su Ming and ordered, You 2 have to follow him closely. Yes, Elder Lei Xian, rest assured. We will stay close to Master Su Ming, one of the 2 guards promised. Good. Lei Xian nodded and turned to Su Ming. Always take with you the thing I gave you. Never remove it or put it in your interspatial ring. If you are really in danger, it could save your life. I got it, Master. Su Ming nodded deferentially. You can leave now, Lei Xian said and waved them away. Su Ming and his 2 guards left immediately. The bald elder Lei Xian continued to sit there quietly as he watched Su Ming's retreating figure. He shook his head silently. Lei Xian was born without any family. He grew up alone in adversity, joined the Universal Thunder sect, and eventually became the sect master. He had always been alone, with no master or disciple. The opportunity he had left in the ancient world had been obtained by Su Ming. The latter, like him, was a man who would do anything to attain his goal. Therefore, he had accepted Su Ming as his disciple. It was not easy for him to get a disciple, so he valued Su Ming very much. After leaving Lei Xian, Su Ming and his 2 guards emerged from the shop and walked to the next street. Jian Wushuang had been watching them from the tavern in silence. He had no intention of taking action. The sect master Lei Xian really treasures his disciple. He actually arranged for 2 Eternal Realm experts to be Su Ming's guards. He deserves to be one of the guest elders of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion. Jian Wushuang's lips were pressed into a thin smile. He continued to drink in solitude. He had read Lei Xian's information carefully. When Lei Xian had left the firmament territory, he had only been at step 4 of the Eternal Realm. As he wandered, his strength had grown. Now, he was at step 5 of the Eternal Realm, and had even broken through to the top of this step. In a nutshell, he was extremely powerful. Most importantly, Lei Xian was a guest elder of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion. The Heavenly Cloud Pavilion was a force to be reckoned with in Circus Island. On this island, the most exalted one was surely the Lord of Circus Island and his Circus army. In addition to the Lord of Circus Island, there were 6 forces that were entrenched on Circus Island. All the 6 forces were under the command of the Lord. Usually, they operated as separate entities. They had a long history and were very strong. They were said to have Tao Masters as their backers. And the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion was one of the 6 forces. As a guest elder of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion, Lei Xian had an extraordinary position in the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion. He now ran nearly a third of the shops belonging to them. Su Ming's master is not just an expert at the peak of Step 5 of the Eternal Realm, but also a guest elder of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion, and Su Ming is protected by 2 Eternal Realm guards. We're also on Circus Island, so I'd have a lot of trouble killing him. Jian Wushuang's eyes were narrowed, but he didn't look anxious at all. Well, I'll leave him alone for now. I'll go to the blood battle arena first and try to get a Circus token. I have the privilege of killing people on this island only with a Circus token. With this in mind, Jian Wushuang emptied his cup, and then checked out before leaving the tavern. The blood battle arena was at the very center of Circus Island and was situated underground. When Jian Wushuang arrived at the blood battle arena, the scene of madness before him took his breath away. Jian Wushuang had been to a similar place in the ancient world. He was a teenager at the time, and he had gone to the gladiator arena to participate in duels to get more spirit-cultivating pills. The gladiator arena also looked pretty crazy, but was nothing compared to the blood battle arena. The vast underground world had a radius of thousands of kilometers. There were numerous seats, in which more than 1 million people sat, screaming wildly. But these people didn't even fill 1/10 of the seats in this underground world. There were 2 huge arenas in the middle of the underground world. A fierce battle was currently taking place in one. Wow, wow, wow! Oh yes, fight! The exclamations, screams and howls drowned out the fighting at the arena. That's really crazy. Jian Wushuang was shocked at the scene. He took a seat and watched the fight in the arena. The 2 fighters were clearly superior divine realm experts and both were formidable. Bang! An almighty bang was suddenly heard issuing from the center of the arena. A fighter's lower limbs had burst open and blood was spurting out. The other fighter, a fierce man, laughed as he clenched his right hand and directed his punch towards his opponent's head. A faint roar akin to that of a savage beast could be heard as the wounded man's head was pulverized. There was no doubt that he was dead. The death did not silence the blood battle arena. Instead, it caused a greater uproar. The winner is Skull. Do you want to continue the challenge, Skull? Asked the host of the fight, who was an Eternal Realm expert. Haha, of course, Skull replied after a bellow of laughter. His voice echoed through the arena. As soon as Skull had announced his decision, a superior divine realm expert arrived at the arena and tried to challenge him. Jian Wushuang continued to sit in the audience and watched their fight silently. He watched more than 10 fierce fights successively. Of the 13 men who were defeated in these fights, only 3 survived. The other 10 died on the arena. This was the brutality and madness of the blood battle arena. There were 2 kinds of blood battle arenas, one for divine realm experts and the other for eternal realm experts. The fight between experts in the eternal realm took place only once every month, with at most a dozen duels each time. It was violent but not crazy. However, the fight between the divine realm experts took place every day, and thus a large number of divine realm experts died every day. Even so, there was no stopping the madness. Circus Island had many more experts in the divine realm than in the eternal realm. Their large number made them insignificant. These divine realm experts clearly know that the odds of death are very high, and that those who dare to fight in the blood battle arena are all superior divine realm experts. Still, they continue to challenge themselves. It's really... Jian Wushuang sighed inwardly. Divine realm experts who could obtain Circus tokens would reap many benefits on Circus Island. Other benefits aside, permanent residency on the island had great appeal, in addition to the privilege of killing people. Furthermore, the Circus token could be sold for an astronomical price. As the benefits were so attractive, the divine realm experts were willing to take risks. For me, there's no need to waste time watching the life-or-death duels between divine realm experts, Jian Wushuang muttered as he shook his head subtly. Then he walked to the arena and signed up for the fight. The frenzied fight continued on the arena. Jian Wushuang had no idea how many superior divine realm experts had appeared on the arena, but he had not seen anyone win 5 fights in a row. That was, until a girl in a green dress appeared on the arena. The girl showed remarkable strength with a spear. She defeated 6 superior divine realm experts with ease. She is quite good. She must be close to the peak of the divine realm. Jian Wushuang speculated silently. At this point, the next challenger is Swordsman, the host shouted wildly. Oh! Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were arched and he smiled as he appeared on the arena like a phantom. Immediately, the attention of the audience was directed at him. Ow, ow, ow! The frenzied howls from the audience continued. Jian Wushuang ignored the noise as he turned his eyes to the girl opposite him. Swordsman? Is that an alias? The girl looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, replied Jian Wushuang. You seem confident. The girl smiled. Not bad. Be careful then. It's a life-or-death duel. I have no intention of killing you, but if I can't stop my attack, you can't blame me. With that, the girl began to attack Jian Wushuang. Swoosh! The long spear was thrusted straight at Jian Wushuang. As the spear moved, a series of strange-looking whirlpools appeared in the void. The speed of the spear was extraordinary. Good! Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. At first glance, Jian Wushuang already knew that the girl had condensed her spear heart, which was already steady at level 1. Thus, her overall strength was comparable to that of the most powerful divine realm expert. Normally, it would not be difficult for her to win 10 consecutive battles to get a Circus token. Unfortunately, she had run into Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang struck. It was a casual, ordinary blow. The girl was stunned by the movement as she could not see its tracks at all. With a crash, the girl's long spear flew out of her hand. Blood gushed out from the new cut on her wrist. Jian Wushuang withdrew his sword and stood still. Thank you. The girl looked at Jian Wushuang gratefully. She retrieved her long spear and hurried off the arena. She was well aware that Jian Wushuang had gone easy on her. He's horrifying. I'm one of the most powerful divine realm experts and can even fight an expert at step 1 of the eternal realm. But he defeated me with 1 blow. If he didn't show mercy, I'd be dead now. It's my first time seeing such a terrifying divine realm expert. She was still in shock even as she stepped off the arena. The audience had started to cheer when they saw Jian Wushuang defeat the girl with a single blow. Swordsman! Swordsman! The audience chanted his name. The host asked, Swordsman, do you want to continue the challenge? Yes, of course, replied Jian Wushuang, smiling. Subsequently, several people challenged him. These challengers were very strong. Each of them was a superior divine realm expert. Some were almost as skillful as the strongest divine realm experts. But to Jian Wushuang they were weak. One blow. As he had done with his first opponent, Jian Wushuang defeated the next 9 challengers with one blow. Unsurprisingly, he obtained 10 consecutive victories. Jian Wushuang was merciful and did not kill his opponents. Only one challenger had been killed because he had continued to fight despite being wounded by Jian Wushuang. After successively winning 10 fights, Jian Wushuang walked off the arena. Mr. Swordsman, here's your Cersus token. You can use it yourself, lend it to someone or sell it. You may not obtain more than 1 token, said the host, an Eternal Realm expert. I see, thank you, said Jian Wushuang as he took the token. He stained the token with a drop of his blood to mark his ownership before getting ready to leave. Swordsman! A voice behind him stopped him in his tracks. Jian Wushuang turned and saw the girl who had been his first opponent on the arena. She approached him with a smile on her face. Congratulations, she said. Yes, Jian Wushuang asked indifferently. I'm Lin Wan. I'm here to thank you for showing me mercy during the fight, explained the girl. I have nothing against you. I just wanted to get a Cersus token. There was no need to kill you, Jian Wushuang said coolly. He quickly took his leave to avoid entanglements with the girl. This guy is interesting. Lin Wan wasn't offended by Jian Wushuang's indifference. Instead, her curiosity about him grew. I thought it would be easy for me to get a Cersus token in the blood battle arena. I wasn't expecting him to defeat me so easily. My father was right. The Eternal World has an abundant number of experts and there are many hidden talents on Cersus Island. Lin Wan thought in amazement. Just then, 2 white-robed figures rushed forward anxiously. Miss, thank God we found you. Let's go back at once. His Excellency would be furious to know that you were in the blood battle arena. I just got here. Don't worry. I'll go back after getting a Cersus token. Lin Wan scowled. A Cersus token? The 2 white-robed figures exchanged shocked glances. One of them continued to persuade her. Miss, please don't be willful. The fights here are very cruel. If you get injured, we'll both be blamed for it. You may ask His Excellency for a Cersus token. You don't have to fight here. All right, cut the crap. I'll go back. Lin Wan muttered, and followed the 2 white-robed men away from the blood battle arena. After leaving the blood battle arena, Jian Wushuang rented a mansion on the island and settled down before looking for chances to kill Su Ming. Soon, 3 days had passed. Jian Wushuang sat by the window on the 2nd floor of a restaurant. He was drinking and paying close attention to what was happening downstairs. He could clearly see Su Ming, who was protected by the 2 Eternal Realm experts. It has been 3 days. Su Ming has been staying in the block of Heavenly Cloud Pavilion, and his 2 guards have not left his side. It'll be impossible for me to take action even after he leaves the block. The block of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion was filled with experts of the Heavenly Cloud Pavilion, including Lei Xian. If Jian Wushuang attacked Su Ming, those experts would retaliate immediately. It was risky for him to make his move while Su Ming resided in the block. However, given the present situation, he had to take a risk. With the help of his master, Su Ming's strength has improved rapidly, and he has become a superior divine realm expert. Even so, if I do try to kill him, he won't have time to react. Jian Wushuang analyzed the situation. As for his 2 guards, they are only at step 1 of the Eternal Realm. My sudden attack will catch them off guard. I'll find an excellent opportunity, kill Su Ming with 1 blow, and leave immediately. Having made a decision, Jian Wushuang's expression lightened. In the last 3 days, he had assessed the strength of Su Ming and his 2 guards. With his strength, he had excellent chances of carrying out a successful assassination, and he would have time to escape. Jian Wushuang left the restaurant and edged closer to where Su Ming was. Jian Wushuang had completely restrained his aura, so that he did not attract any attention. Su Ming did not notice him even as he drew within 50 m of him. I only have 1 chance. If I fail to kill him this time, he will be more careful and even stay with his master. If that happens, I won't be able to kill him. So I have to kill him now, Jian Wushuang said to himself. His eyes gleamed in anticipation. Now! He suddenly moved. His speed instantly reached its peak as he unsheathed the Emperor's sword. He crossed the distance of less than 50 meters in a flash and swung his sword at unprecedented speed. This move was called Twilight. A beautiful sword shadow emerged silently before Su Ming's throat. Jian Wushuang's sword heart reached its fullest power and trembled slightly in his sea of consciousness. He was not adept at assassination, but he knew how to find the perfect time to kill. At the perfect moment, he delivered the most unexpected blow with astonishing speed. That blow left his target no chance of survival. There was absolutely no way Su Ming could have avoided it. In the street, Su Ming was guarded by two Eternal Realm experts. He was deep in thought over what his master had told him and did not even notice the fatal blow approach him. The two guards did not notice anything amiss until the sword shadow appeared in front of Su Ming's throat. Crap! The two guards could not do anything as the sword shadow was too close. Clank! A low metal crash sounded, and Jian Wushuang's face immediately darkened. Unexpectedly, an energy shield had suddenly appeared around Su Ming at the critical moment and blocked Jian Wushuang's blow. The energy shield broke as it deflected the strike. The ring on Su Ming's finger also disintegrated. That ring was the life-saving item that Lei Xian had given Su Ming. It contained a layer of energy shield, which would automatically activate when Su Ming encountered a life crisis, but it would only work once. What? Su Ming finally realized what was happening. He raised his head and stared hard at Jian Wushuang, who had a murderous look on his face. Jian Wushuang. Su Ming let out a sharp cry of fear, and as he quickly backed away, he brought out his token to make contact with his master. Master, hurry up! Save me! Jian Wushuang is trying to kill me.